we make you laugh? Aren't we fucking funny?
Does that sound fine?
What's the boogeyman?
Welcome back to the Moonjuice Metal and Horror Podcast, the podcast where we live and breathe heavy metal and horror, but are afraid to shit on both of them. This is the first time I didn't fuck it up. I mean, the last few episodes.
Killed it. Fucking killed it. Okay.
Yeah,
I always hope we're gonna fuck it up because it makes for an interesting thing at the beginning, but whatever. It's okay. If we don't fuck it up, I'm fine with it too. So, everybody was probably expecting that we were gonna do It Part 2. Don't worry, we are gonna do It Part 2. It's coming after this episode, but this episode is our surprise episode because there's a movie that has been getting a shit ton of hype in the horror world, right? Like, I was interested in seeing this movie because I'm a fan of the franchise, obviously, but at the same time, I wasn't tracking when it was coming out. I think, Mike, you were better at tracking when this thing was coming out than I was.
Yes, usually I track it. I usually track these kind of things when movies are coming out or whatever, but I just totally forgot to somehow put 28 years later on our list. Probably mostly because, how should I say it? I just hated 28 weeks later, you know. So that's why because I hated that movie so much that I thought this one was going to be so fucking bad, so I flat out ignored it, you know. So I knew it was coming out sometime, but I didn't know it was already out, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, it snuck up on us, man. And the reason I realized it is because I saw a preview for it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that looks really good. I can't wait till that comes out." And then underneath it, I saw people commenting, "Oh my god, it was such a great movie," and I'm like, "Fuck, it's out! God damn it!" And so I wrote Mike, and I was like, "Dude, this movie's out, and it's getting a shit ton of hype. People are saying it's the best zombie movie they've ever seen. Blah blah blah. People say that shit all the time, and then I go see a movie, and I'm like,
yeah,
really?"
I mean, I know it's just crazy. That's one of the things that you're right. Every time a new zombie movie or a new zombie series comes out, you're gonna have multiple people like, "This is the best zombie movie I've ever seen," and blah blah blah. No, and it's like, I mean, I literally saw multiple arguments of that on Land of the Dead. You know, where I'm like, that movie was. I mean, I know it's from George R. Romero and it's the Dead series, but it was. I don't know. I didn't really like that one, you know. Just like it was that one.
That one was mediocre at best.
Yeah, mediocre. That one and Survival of the Dead. Those two from the entire Dead series of George Romero are totally mediocre. Diary of the Dead was good. It was good.
I never saw Diary of the Dead.
Yeah. It's pretty.
I didn't hear a lot of stuff about it either.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's from George R. Romero, the Dead series, but filmed like a Blair Witch Project. No, that was what was kind of that was kind of interesting about it. No, but it's somehow, I don't know, it's somehow in between Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead. Just as a different group of people somehow. I mean, I don't. I would have to look into it. I don't fully remember.
This one is a completely separate kind of idea from a lot of zombie movies. Like if you watch 28 Days Later, and that movie came out a super fucking long time ago, early 2000s, right? It was good. Yeah. Like I actually liked that movie. I saw it in the theaters, and that was the first time I'd seen Cillian Murphy in anything. Great actor.
Yeah.
The gore was good. The film quality was not, but I think that's part of the charm of the movie. It was overall a really good take on zombies because it's a virus. But it also, it doesn't give you zombies like the typical kind of moping around brains zombies. It gives you this rage-filled monster zombie. Right. Yeah. And I love that idea. And it was the first time I know that this series did not create running zombies or rage zombies, that came before. But this one does it really, really well. And at the time, this is the first time I'd seen rage-filled running zombies that are just hell-bent on destroying everything. And so I like the film just because of the pace of it. Like it is constant action for the most part. Anytime the characters came in contact with the infected, it was a free-for-all. Like, you had to get away from these things. There's no outmaneuvering them. There's no outrunning them for the most part. You have to get someplace safe because these things are going to tear you to shreds. And for that reason alone, I really love these fucking zombies. And so we kind of both agree that the first movie was really good. The second movie, in my opinion, is absolute garbage.
Yeah.
We kind of covered that in the last episode where we did It Part 1. There's a lot of things that don't make any sense about the second movie, but thankfully they clear that up with this film.
Yeah.
Everything that Part 2, which Part 2 was, 28 weeks later?
28 weeks later. Yeah.
Everything that movie did wrong, this one does right. And I was really thankful for that. And the reason for that is the director. So the director of the first film did not do the second film. He did do the third film. And it brought it back out and made the series relevant again. And I didn't know a whole lot about this movie going in, just kind of what I'd seen here and there. But this is not a completely different take on what's going on. It doesn't change the formula, but it kind of goes back to the same setup that's in the first movie in terms of characterization, in terms of violence, in terms of just overall atmosphere. It very much mimics the first movie, and I was really happy about that. Not a whole lot of bad shit to say about this film, dude. Like, I was very, very surprised, as you were too. Like, we both went and saw this movie in the theater.
Yeah, for me too. I liked it. It was good. It was actually very good, and I was going into this movie, thinking it's going to be total crap. I mean, it's probably going to be just as fucking shitty as 28 weeks later. So I literally was not expecting to like this movie. But at the end, it was actually pretty good. And I would even say just as good as the first one. No?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I do, of course, have a few complaints, but it's pretty much, on the same level as the first one. There's a few things that I thought were not much, but there were a few things that I thought was a little bit dumb. What a lot of people, I guess, think are going to be dumb, but I think we'll get into it later.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah. The premise around this film, I mean, the name of the movie kind of gives it away. And by the way, if it's not like we need to say this, but this movie is going to be spoilers, or this episode is going to be spoilers all the way through. Like, if you haven't seen this movie and you want to be surprised, go ahead and shut this episode off right now because we're going to spoil the shit out of the movie. And I'm fine with that. I think everybody who watches this podcast kind of knows that already. Like,
yeah, I mean, kind of.
Don't be mad.
You can say, it's not that often that we do new movies, But thing is, I'm not necessarily sure if we should say that we're going to spoil this movie because that's kind of what our podcast is. We go through the movies from the beginning to the end. So.
But there's always that one fucking guy who writes in the comments, "Oh, God damn it, fuck, man, I didn't get a spoiler warning." Like, I've seen that once already, and I'm like, dude, what fucking podcast do you think you're watching? Yeah.
Where?
Yeah, it's on. I'll have to send you a screenshot of it, but it's on our Spotify version.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it's on Spotify. They're like, oh man, you could have at least said that there were going to be spoilers. I'm like, what the fuck? Do you think you're watching something where we're going to talk about the movie? Like, we literally go through movies piece by piece. Like, if you're watching this and you've watched another one, you should already know that it's going to be full of spoilers. Period.
But
no apologies.
However, so this was just we said the spoilers. Now we're going to get into the movie. But before that, I just want to say, if you like this podcast, don't forget to follow us on Spotify, and if you're watching it on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, give us a like and comment on this video because it really helps us out. Yeah.
So, opening this movie, right? So the name of the movie kind of already spoils what's going on. It's 28 years later, but it's 28 years after the second movie. Mm-hmm. So this is not 28 years after the first movie. It's 28 years after the second movie, which was 28 weeks later, right?
Yeah.
It's a simple thing, but I mean, if you think about it, then it makes a little bit more sense, right? This movie opens up at a point that is not 28 years later, right? So the movie opens at the time of the breakout. when the outbreak happened, right?
Yeah.
And so you get kind of a house in Scotland where there are multiple kids crowded around a TV. By the way, everything in this movie, from the house to the TV to everything in the room, everything is early 2000s technology and style.
Yeah.
Because this world is stuck in early 2000s when the outbreak happened. You're in a house where there's multiple children of different ages that are watching the Teletubbies on a 2000s TV, right? And they're watching intently. There's nothing in the air that hints that something bad is going on immediately. But then you hear a ruckus outside. The kids start to get a little scared, and they're kind of watching the TV very closely to try to ignore what's going on behind them. There's something going on in the house because in this room, there's a door behind them that's closed. The mom comes running in and she says, "Okay, children, watch the show. Watch the show. Don't worry about what's going on. Watch the show." And then she walks back out of the room and shuts the door. You hear screaming, fighting, all sorts of stuff going on outside. You hear zombies doing the typical zombie growl and typical zombie sounds. There's people being thrown around. The kids don't break their gaze from the TV. They're watching the TV because this is their distraction from what's going on. The next scene was kind of unexpected because all of a sudden the zombies break into the room, right? And if anybody gives, Mike, what is this fucking phenomenon, right? So I don't know what it is. As a horror fan, I expect to go into a horror movie seeing terrible things. Right?
Yeah.
You go to a horror movie, you expect people to die. You expect that children probably are going to get killed too. This is not something new. This has been going on since Black Christmas, right?
Yeah.
But it seems like the current thing with horror movies to complain about is when children get murdered, right? If there is a bad guy, if there is a zombie, if there's something that is out to murder everybody in the film, you should expect the children are going to get murdered too. But if they do it in a movie now, everybody gets up in arms about it. And it's just part of the formula. So zombies bust into the room and they kill all the kids, right? You don't see it in graphic detail, but there's blood everywhere all over the screen. Obviously, the children are being eaten and they're screaming, and it's a rough watch, dude.
Yeah, it is a rough watch. I mean, but I think that's also, just what it's supposed to do. I mean, it's the opening, and it's one of those scenes. It's put into a movie because it's supposed to just show you how horrible the situation is. No. And I do not necessarily think they would have had to do it with kids, but they decided to do it. No. But the thing is, you can just, like you said, there's like this one kid that they just brought in at last. No. And he makes it out as the only one.
Yeah. Jimmy is his name.
Jimmy is his name, exactly. Then he goes out and his mom's like, "Oh, Jimmy, run. And then you can just see zombies tearing everybody apart and people that just got infected turning now into zombies. And
the last thing he sees is his mom. His mom is like, "Jimmy, run." She slams the door in front of her because she's probably in the den of the house, slams the door in front of her. So all Jimmy sees is her hand pressed against the glass and then a zombie attack her from the back and blood splattered all over the glass. And that's the last thing he sees before he runs out of the house, down the street, and to the local church, right? So he runs into the local church, opens the door, and his father is there. And his father is a priest. He's in his priest getup. He's clutching his crucifix, and he's kind of on his knees in front of the altar. And he's like basically happy about this, right? And this is odd if you don't have context for it. But if you read the Bible, or if you know anything about the Bible, it says in the end times the dead will walk the earth, and that this is just kind of the phase that has to happen and will happen for years until humanity's basically wiped out and everybody's placed where they're supposed to be placed in the afterlife. So his dad is fully devoted to this. So his dad is sitting there clutching the crucifix, praying to God and thanking God that this is happening. Jimmy runs up to him, grabs him by the shoulder, says, "Dad, what's going on? We got to get out of here. What are you doing? They're coming." Dad says, "No, Jimmy, it's okay. Let them take you. This is the end. It was prophesized in the Bible. Everything's going to be fine. Just accept it." Jimmy's not really down with that. Jimmy's like, "You know what? Fuck this. I'm gonna run away if you're not, Dad." And his dad gives him his crucifix, like the typical rosary beads with the crucifix at the end that all Catholics carry. He gives it to Jimmy. Jimmy takes it, and Jimmy runs off. Jimmy hides himself kind of in the back of the church underneath something.
Yeah.
So that the zombies can't get him. The zombies run in and just tear his father apart. They infect him, and his father stands up and starts running with the rest of the zombies because his dad is now infected. Right. Cut back to Jimmy. Jimmy is kind of in the spot where he was hiding, clutching the crucifix, saying, why has my God forsaken me? Which is also lifted from the Bible. Jesus said it when he was about to be crucified in the Garden of Gethsemane.
Yeah.
And then that's the end of that opening scene. We get him sitting there with crucifix saying, why has God forsaken me? Blah, blah, blah. And you think that's the last time we see the character. It's not the last time you see him, but we'll get to that later. So then we get kind of a black screen with white letters that says 28 years later. And that's not only the introduction to the film name, it's also letting you know what you just saw happened 28 years ago, and we're jumping forward into the future 28 days later. I like the opening scene. It's really good. It's extremely brutal. I like it because I don't feel like the first film really touched on the brutality of this whole thing. There were scenes in the first movie that were kind of a rough watch and a little bit brutal, but this opening scene with these kids being murdered and then him escaping to the church is pretty cool. Like, this got me hyped for the film. I was like, okay, this might actually be a good fucking film. Cool. 28 years later, the story jumps 28 years forward. Great Britain is still under kind of indefinite quarantine because the outbreak was never contained within the UK, right?
Yeah.
So this is kind of a shift from what we thought was happening with the last film, because at the end of the last film, you saw that the infected had infected Paris because they're running around in front of the Eiffel Tower. And that's the last scene you get before the film cuts. So we were led to believe that the outbreak spread to the rest of mainland Europe, and then God knows where else after that. I mean, could be America, could be anywhere in the world. The outbreak is not contained. But we find out that it has basically been contained to Great Britain. We're introduced to a survivor community in Lindisfarne is what it's called. It's kind of got like a Lindisfarne. It's kind of almost like Nordic name for a town, but that's because it's kind of off the coast of Scotland. And if you look into the history of this place was one of the locations for a really, really big Viking invasion back in the day.
Yeah.
This is kind of what happened on this little island is kind of what jump-started all the fear in Northumbria and the entire Viking invasion of the UK that happened. And because of that reason, I think this is a great setting for this film. This little island off the coast. And you kind of get a look at this island. It's completely heavily enforced all the way around. There's a village kind of in the center of it, but it's enforced all the way around by a big wall that's built out of, wooden logs and everything. And these people in this community that you see have kind of figured it out. Like, in my opinion, they've got everything set up to where it's a commune. But there's an air of mutual respect for everyone else around. You see that because there's like a shed that you see with supplies inside of it, clothes, arrows, all sorts of stuff like that. And there's a sign above it that says, if you don't need it, don't take it. But if you need it, take it. And so there's kind of an honor system here where everybody works together to make sure that everybody has enough of whatever they need. There's a mutual respect. You cut to the marketplace in the town. You see kind of a normal, what you would maybe expect from like medieval England almost, except for that everybody's wearing clothes from the 2000s, right? But otherwise, everything else resembles kind of a medieval square. Like there's people in the market that are selling things. There's farm animals running around. It looks like a medieval market, except with people in 2000.
Yeah, of course, but what of course is obvious, because that's also the thing that also I questioned myself. How this thing actually formed, because you can see like it's actually only I don't know what the English term is. In German, they call it Halbinsel. That's basically an island that you can walk to during certain times of the day, when however the flood is.
Yeah.
So there is
English, it's tidal island.
What?
Tidal island.
It's a tidal island. No, so that's because that's when we watched the movie. That's one thing that was going through my mind, how this actually formed. Because were these houses there from the beginning, or was it just like a tidal island where you had like a lighthouse, or where there were a few houses and it was just used for fishing? No, so that I mean, so I guess somehow when everything started, you have like a few fishermen. That's how would assume it, that had
Yeah.
these few houses where they done fishing for a nearby community. No,
Yeah.
and that community, very at the beginning of it, just locked everything down, build those fences, and then occasionally took in a few survivors that were uninfected, but so far managed to build up this. That would have been interesting to see, how this community formed. During the period
Yeah.
from the initial and then the second outbreak. So
Yeah.
but that was something that was going through my head. But just like you say, I mean, they have no electricity, they have no flowing water, so of course it would basically be kind of like medieval times.
Well, that
No?
the thing.
Yeah.
The thing that got me is, so I had no idea where this place was or what it was.
Yeah.
But after the film, just like with any film, I'll go research and try to figure out a little bit more about locations. This location actually exists. And the name of it is Holy Island, right?
Yeah.
So back in medieval times and on until now, it housed a very large monastery where there were monks and a huge church and stuff like that. And of course, if you have a monastery, you have livestock, you have crops that are being grown. Monasteries were completely self-sufficient. So that island contained a monastery and a big church. And then it also, over the years, started to get inhabitants that were not part of the monastery. So the houses that are there and the villages that are there on that island are actually real. Like, it's a real place.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, the history of this island, like I said, with the Viking invasion and everything that happened, this is actually very fitting. Just because of all the violence that happened there back in the day. Like there's like that has been remembered, and the island itself actually has kind of a Nordic name specifically because of all that stuff that happened back in the day. So everything that you're seeing, the houses, the plantations, all that stuff was already there. But these people probably knew that the outbreak happened. We're hearing things about it, probably saw infected, and then we're like, fuck it, let's board this place up. Because the only way that they can get out to this island is if it's low tide and they walk across the causeway that's only visible at low tide. So we're going to close this place off and we're not going to let people in. And that's exactly what they did. And I think the setting is fucking awesome. It's cool as hell. This is definitely a brilliant idea. So the central characters that we get introduced to right now are Spike, played by Alfie Williams. He's a 12-year-old boy. His father, Jamie, who's played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, who's a great actor. I love this guy.
Kick-ass.
Yeah, kick-ass. Like, there's not a movie this guy's been in that I didn't like. I actually love this actor. He's fucking fantastic. Plays a bit of an asshole in this movie.
Yeah. He is. How should I say an asshole? Yeah and no. Regarding specific, I mean, he's a bad husband. No, that definitely. But everything else, I would say, I'm not sure to call him an asshole. I would call him very flawed, but
yeah, he's a flawed character.
He's a flawed character. I mean, it's just crazy because I wouldn't necessarily call him asshole specifically because the way he treats his son in the beginning. No. I would have to see more of this guy to say like he's an asshole. I mean, if I was there somehow with him, I would probably be calling him a fucking asshole because of things he does. In my opinion, are ethically not okay. But yeah. But what I can say, we're going to see why Spike is an idiot. Okay. I mean, that's like the kid. This is like the main protagonist.
I already know what's coming. I already know what's coming.
We're gonna get into it, but I mean, this is like, my opinion, one of the dumbest characters I have seen in any zombie movie so far, and we're gonna get to it later on.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into it. Yeah. I may have a different opinion about the character now, just because I've had time to think about the movie. And then I remember myself at 12 years old, and I probably wouldn't have done things very differently, honestly. If you think about, oh, okay, well, we'll get into it. We'll get into it. Okay, so
We'll get into it.
we're introduced. It's tough because I really like this movie and I want to talk a lot about the characters and about decisions that were made, but I got to introduce the cast first, at least in this part. So we get introduced to Spike. He's a 12-year-old kid. His father, Jamie, is a scavenger. So you get the idea that everybody on this island probably has their part to play because it is a commune. There's people that we see a guy who's building arrows at the beginning. So his obvious job is to build arrows for everybody who does leave the island to go hunt. You see an iron worker who's creating metal pieces to fix things. Everybody kind of has their part. His father's part is a scavenger. He goes out. He scavenges pieces and brings them back for the community to be able to use. That's his job. We also meet his mother, Isla, who's played by Jodie Corner. She's suffering from kind of a mysterious illness that's kind of later revealed to be terminal cancer, but we don't know that at this point. Right now, all we know is that she's sick because when we're introduced to her character, she's laying in the bed. It doesn't look like she's left this room in their house for a little while. Like she's obviously sick. She's a little bit confused about what's going on all the time. And people have to remind her of things. For instance, Spike and her father come up there when we're introduced to her. And, his father, Jamie, says, hey, yep. So how are you doing today? She's like, I'm good. Why is Spike not in school? Right. And Spike is a little kid. And his father says, we talked about this, honey. You don't remember? And she's like, no, why is he not in school? Why is it Friday and why is he not in school? And you get the idea that they've been through this conversation before and they've talked about it and came to some agreement, but she's completely forgotten about it because of her issues. He says, well, it's time for me to take him to the mainland because he's 12 years old and it's time. And we talked about this. And she loses her fucking mind. She's angry as if it's the first time she's heard it. She doesn't like the idea because obviously mainland is full of infected, right? And so the father spends his time trying to calm her down, trying to, get her mind off of the fact that he has to do this because you get the feeling that this is a rite of passage.
Yeah.
Right. So for boys to become men, and we find this out later, for boys to become men, they have to leave the island and get their first kill. They have to kill a zombie, kill an infected, and then make it back alive. We find that out a little later. But during this introduction to the mother, we figure out that she's discombobulated. She doesn't understand what's going on and is not really doing real well. Yeah. Spike is kind of shown to be observant and sensitive, but also keen to impress his father. Like, he really gives a shit what his father thinks about him. Everything his father says, he's like, yeah, Dad. Okay, Dad. Yes, Dad. And just really, really wanting to impress him because this community is really small and it's like any other village here in like Europe. If you go to some place in Europe and there's a little village and those people never leave, there's a real sense of community there. And everybody kind of looks to everybody else for what they think about an outsider or what they think about the situation at hand. Everything that's these people's world happens on that island. So everybody's very in tune with each other. Yeah. So there's kind of a hunting ritual, right? Yeah. And I kind of went into this a little bit. Jamie, who's the father, is going to take Spike on a hunting trip to the mainland as kind of a coming of age thing. But we also find out that Spike is also younger than the traditional age. So he's 12. I think they say in the movie you're supposed to be like 14, but he's going to take him out at 12. Everybody seems to agree to this. That's fine. Him and his father go to the front of the compound, which the front of the compound is reinforced by a giant wooden gate that they've put up. It's got several locks and latches on it to where not just anybody would be able to open the gate and go out, and vice versa. Nobody's really able to get in. When they get to the gate, there's kind of a little bit of a ritual that they have to have where they repeat things back and forth to each other, and they kind of explain the rules. The rules are, if you leave, then you leave, and you get your kill, and you come back. If you don't come back, nobody will come looking for you. And there's a village elder that's there that's an older woman, right? And she explains this to him. She says, Spike, do you understand this? If you and your father go out there and you get killed or something happens to you and you don't make it back, we will not come looking for you. Spike agrees. He says, yes, I understand. And she says, "Are you ready to go?" And he says, "Yes, I'm ready to go." And his father nods, and they open the gates and they let these two out. Other than gathering supplies, which is what his father's job is, I don't really see a whole lot of reason to leave this island, and this kind of bugged me a little bit.
Yeah, that's pretty stupid, like them leaving the island. If you think about it, I mean, technically they wouldn't even have to leave this island to hunt because they have boats, what you could clearly see, no, and they're surrounded by water, so it would be easy for them just to fish, um. They would not have to get meat. They obviously have enough to have crops, and you can see them in one scene where they have animals like pigs and goats or whatever. So apparently they have enough cattle as well. So the only reason for food-wise they would have to leave is either maybe if their cattle goes out and have to get new cattle. Or maybe other resources like building resources, stuff like that, stuff they need to make clothes, maybe. But if I was living in this community, and you can guarantee everybody in this community knows what's happening now. Even though the younger generations have probably never known our world anymore. If I knew what that was going on out there, I would not step a fucking foot outside of that fence. I'm going to be honest about this. I would not step a foot off that fucking island. Yeah. And I
guess it depends on what kind of person you are, right? Like I think we would be two totally different types of people if we were stuck in this situation. Like I'm kind of the stupid, crazy death wish adventure type anyway. I would probably be trying to leave this island as much as I could, just because I like being physical and trying to do things that keep my mind entertained. If I was stuck on this fucking island with these people, forever and never got to leave, I'd probably blow my brains out. Of course, I couldn't blow my brains out because they don't have weapons. I'd have to shoot myself in the face with an arrow.
Yeah, I don't know. I think in general, it's an entirely different situation. I mean, we're talking here about a zombie apocalypse. I understand that. I understand that, that people want to be active and that kind of stuff. But it's like literally, if this is a world-ending event and there's zombies running around the entire thing, and going out there is probably is very likely might even kill you. It's like, I'm sorry. No. I mean, I'm usually always that kind of guy also that goes against the rules. But in this situation specifically, if I knew definitely leaving my house would 80% me being killed, I guarantee you I'm not going to fucking leave my house.
Okay. I think... So in a society like this where it's extremely enclosed, this is not a small island. Like you can actually look at the island; it's a real place, and they chose that island for this movie for a reason. It's very big. It's not a tiny island. Like there's enough room to roam around and kind of live your life without having to go out. But just like in normal culture right now, this society kind of mimics our society. And there are thrill seekers and there are people who, would really want to go out there and do stuff. Because in the island is freedom, but freedom with kind of borders. You know what I mean? But if you were to go outside, you have to deal with the zombies. You have to deal with the fact that you might be infected, but it's also absolute freedom. Like out there is the undiscovered world because this is the entire UK that's infected. So you could literally go somewhere else and live a different life if you wanted to. The people that are on this island, it's obvious they discourage against that. And it's talked about basically the entire movie. Like we don't go out. The only reason we go out is for the rite of passage, which is for young people to become the grown-up version of themselves. And the only way that they can do that is by killing a zombie and confronting our foe, right? But you get the feeling from these people in a few scenes that they're not necessarily scared of the zombies. Did you get that? Like they kind of make a big joke out of it. Like they make a big joke out of it. They're like, yeah, fuck them. They're wearing masks that kind of represent the infected. The mask has an arrow in its head. That's kind of like their demon, but they don't really take it seriously. And that's because most of them grew up, during the time of the apocalypse. And then everybody else that's, younger never saw the apocalypse. They only know that outside of this gate are these evil things that can kill you. That said, Mike, it is a huge risk. Like you said, a huge fucking risk for this population to let people out of the complex to go do their rite of passage and come back, right? because what if you are infected?
Clearly have some kind of a process, just like you mentioned a few minutes before that the old lady says, if you come back, if you make it back, fine, but if you're not, nobody's coming looking for you. Then there's later on a scene where the dad and the boy are standing in front of the fence, let us in, and they're still looking at them, look at us so they can see their eyes or whatever. So we clearly have a way to separate the infected from the non-infected, because you can always see it in the eyes if somebody's affected or not. No, yeah. And they have like this. They have this one hole in the fence. No, where if they look through, all they can see is your eye. No,
right.
So
yeah, but there is a process.
There is a process, of course, but yeah, it's a risk, and it always came across to me that it's not like people just leave this island or however they want. No, I also had the feeling that there's a kind of like a process where you have to request to leave the island or something. No, or certain people.
We don't see it, but yeah, probably.
Yeah. Or certain people are sent out. No, if they need stuff or whatever. That's how it came across with me specifically, because when the father and the boy wanted to leave, the old lady said, yeah, usually the age is like 14, what you mentioned before. That clearly means that there's some kind of process. Yeah. And clearly when they approached them, there were like people waiting in front of the gate. So there's clearly a process to leave the island or when you come back. It's just the only thing I thought was a higher risk, was like you have like this small landmass you can walk over. And they have nothing built on that. No, not like some kind of a gate up front. No, I mean, I would have built something just like a wooden board, where you could easily walk around. No, whenever it's flooded. But the thing is, what bothered me is whenever the land part is not flooded, I mean, you're open for attack. That's kind of a thing that I would say a little bit bothered me. If I would have been those people of that community, I would have definitely also built a fence on the beach before this landmass.
Some type of structure,
I would have barricaded several points of this landmass so no zombies could get through. But
yeah, that bothered me too, especially since, and we haven't mentioned this yet, but there is a version of these zombies that is highly intelligent. Now, we didn't know this before, but it is. And I wouldn't say highly intelligent, but it is intelligent and very strong. And it could put two and two together that at certain times the tide is not covering this land bridge that they have leading to the island and could go there. And we see that happen in this movie. So the question is, and I'm with you, the first thing I thought was, why do they not have a structure on the other side of the beach that lets things onto that land bridge? They don't. But it's probably more of a risk to have people stationed at that spot on the beach to let people in and out too.
Yes.
Especially since we know these other zombies, this other version is also very strong.
Yeah.
And agile.
I mean, I would say, if I say a fence, I mean, I don't think the fence on the beach side that goes to the landmass should be guarded. That's a little bit too risky in my opinion as well. I just think you should have a fence that's not locked that anybody could open, in other direction, because at that point it doesn't really matter that much. And when you have that bridge over the landmass, they should put like at least 2 or 3 boarded walls up. Now, because you can easily just walk around. You could easily, when the part is not flooded, you could easily just walk around that. But zombies would obviously be too stupid to do that. No?
Right.
So, yeah.
This also made my military brain start ticking a little bit too, because, and I couldn't help it. Like, if you notice at the main gate where they let people out, and when we eventually see the characters come back, there's only 2 men that are at watch, right? And the 2 men that are at watch are usually older men, and there's only 2 of them. So what you're telling me is that you don't have, and all you have is arrows too, by the way. There are no weapons. There's arrows, right? Bow and arrows. So what you're telling me is that if a mass of these things started running at the compound, you have 2 men with bows and arrows that are going to be able to stop that. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that at all. Like if those things rushed the compound, those two men would not be able to hold off a swarm of zombies. And not to mention, if you notice, the gate that they're let out of and the height of the wall is not very high.
Yeah,
It's not.
No, they could easily jump over it. Yeah.
Yeah, they can easily jump over it. So this is not set up to be a working model of defense at all. In any way whatsoever. But apparently it's worked, and I think the only thing that works in their favor is that the zombies are too stupid to realize that the land bridge is there sometimes and sometimes it's not. Right?
Yeah. That's why. I mean, I think I also had the feeling, but even though, how should I say it, that the land bridge is only there sometimes. That also be, I think, why they also only have that little risk set up. And also later on, to come back, they have more than 2 people. They're like 2 people that are always standing guard, but multiple others, that are basically waiting for the alarm. But
Yeah.
I guess this is like
Okay.
Yeah. But I guess this is just kind of a guarding position, that has to be up at all times.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. For me, it doesn't really work, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's a movie, and I mean, we are also not told what the population of the island is. From what I can tell in the movie and everything that we've seen, it's not a large amount of people. It's not.
I would say
because-
maximum a few hundred.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
when we
but-
see like them all gather together, or there's a party or a get together or something, because we see that a few times in the movie, it is usually around 100, maybe a couple more people. So, like
Yeah.
you said, not a whole lot of people. So maybe they don't have the people to reinforce the guard like they would probably want to.
Yeah. But I mean,
Whatever.
you think is also you don't know how long they had this fence set up, or what materials they have. It's also a
Yeah.
thing they might not really have the resources to build anything more stable. But even if, I mean, just like another thing,
Which is why they have scavengers like the
obviously-
kids' father.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's either, I would guess one of
Yeah.
the scavengers is either to gather the resources that they need, and also to a certain degree to see what's going on the island. Because if you're not stupid, you clearly know that if you have a population of a few hundred people, no, and these people probably do not have birth control, no,
Yeah.
the population is going to grow, no,
Yeah.
and after a certain point, they're going to have to expand the settlement, no. What brings up entirely different situations. Yeah, because on a small
I
island,
mean,
like that,
this is only 28 years, right?
yeah,
So-
yeah,
At 28 years, you're talking about possibly one generation so far.
yeah,
You know, and I
Yeah.
think that generation is the kids that we're seeing. So they're still too young to really, be supportive of the defense of this place. But like you said, this is kind of one of those things where you see people, they've done what they know they can do, and they've done no more. Like they're kind of at a stopping point where they're like, yeah, we understand what the future brings and where this is going to go. Eventually, we'll have to change a few things, but right now this works, and that's kind of where we are in the
Yeah.
story. But the other thing about going out, right? So the scavengers, or the people that they do let leave for the rite of passage, when they do this, they discover new things about the population of zombies, and we're about to find that out now. So after this part where the father and the son go to the gate and they're given the speech about, hey, if you don't come back, we can't go out looking for you, and they let them out, they cross this land bridge, right? When they get to the other side, they slowly start creeping through the woods, right? And so the reason they do this is because these zombies are not all running rage zombies. Like, some of them are extremely fat, and they call them low and slow. I really like this part, dude. Like, this is a nice evolution of zombies, right? And you see this in a lot of other movies, and a lot of video games, or anything that has to do with zombies. These zombies now are rotund. And not all of them, but some of them are rotund, huge, fat, bloated zombies that cannot walk anymore, and they crawl along the ground. And they're disgusting. Like, absolutely disgusting. And because the only thing that they can do is crawl along the ground, they have to eat what's on the ground, right? And so you see them kind of creeping along the ground, grabbing worms out of the dirt and eating worms. So these things live off of living creatures that are on the forest floor, right? They're not quiet, and they're not fast. They're very, very slow. And so the father warns the son, hey, you have to watch out for the low and slow, because they can creep up on you and they can get you and you won't know it. And then they see one, right? So him and his dad are kind of crouched behind a tree and they're looking. They both have their bows and arrows, and he says, "There's one right there." So they see one, and it's searching the forest floor for grubs or fucking worms or whatever tasty treats they can get. Basically, these things are birds that can't fly that are fat. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so they see one, and he says, "Okay, just like I taught you, pull back on the bow and aim for the head." Right? And so the kid is scared to death because this is the first time he's ever shot anything. So he pulls back on the bow, and we kind of get a long sequence of his hand shaking and him being scared because it's the first time. He lets the arrow go, and it hits the thing in the I think in the neck, right?
In the neck,
It hits the thing in the neck first, and it doesn't kill it. It just pisses it off. So it starts crawling towards them, and his dad's like, "Fuck, okay." So his dad takes the bow and starts aiming the arrow at it. At the same time, there is another low and slow zombie creeping up from their right-hand side that they don't see.
Yeah.
And it's slowly Jabba the Hutt like creeping towards them, right? Neither of them see it. The dad hears something to his right as he's about to shoot the other low and slow, notices it, shoots the one low and slow and kills it, and then turns and shoots the other one in the head, and it's dead too, right? But not before it stands up. So these things are not just things that crawl on the ground. They can also stand up and kind of shamble towards you, but they're not fast. And so they kill this thing. The dad's happy. The kid's happy. He congratulates the kid on his first shot. He didn't kill the zombie, but it doesn't matter. At least he had the gall to shoot the arrow. The kid is a little bit, would you say, maybe disappointed in himself because he didn't kill the zombie, and he tells his dad that his dad's like, "Don't worry about it," you know.
Well, not yet. I mean, not yet. I mean, no, not that comes later on. You know, when the kid is disappointed in himself. The kid is now first a little bit shocked, nah. But the dad doesn't really say much to him. He's like, yeah. He at that point he's like, you know what, shit happens, nah, it's your first time, but at least you kind of got him, nah. So
yeah. So they decide to go further, right? So they go further into the woods, and we don't really get a time frame for how long this is lasting, right? But we see the daylight kind of start to go down a little bit. They're going, and at this point, the dad notices that there is a deer's head with the spine attached to it stuck up in a tree, right? And so when he sees that, he puts his hand on the deer's head and he says, "Oh no, this was an alpha. An alpha did this." And this is the first time we're hearing this concept about an alpha, right? And the kid obviously already knows what it is because he kind of nods. He goes, "Okay." And then we get kind of a cut back in time a little bit to show us what happened to this deer. And what you see are a whole bunch of these zombies crowding around in the woods. There is a much bigger, almost ogreish type zombie, just a giant, big monster of a guy. And he finds this deer, grabs the deer by the head, and rips the deer's head off with the spine coming out of it, and sticks the deer's head in the tree. And all the other zombies feed off of the carcass of the deer, right? And so now we know what this alpha is. So that was kind of their way of explaining it. And I like that scene because the scene is completely shot in red filter as well. I don't know if you noticed that, but like the cutback is completely shot in red filter. So it's completely ominous. You know, it sets a tone for exactly what this alpha is, which is very dangerous. And we'll find out a little bit later why the alphas are the way that they are. But because of that, and because the sun is going down, I
think you forgot a scene. You forgot a scene where they came over, where the father and the boy came over a house where he had like a zombie hanged up on his feet.
Oh, yeah, right. You're right.
Yeah,
you're right. So that happened. So they go a little bit further into the woods, and then they come across a house. And this is also where we see writing on the house too, right? And the writing that's on the house is spray painted, and it's a Bible verse. And it kind of alludes to the fact that the end is near and they're coming. But somebody else has written Jimmy after coming. So it says someone's coming, Jimmy, and then the rest of the thing. So we have no idea who Jimmy is, but I mean, there's an inkling to the name from the beginning of the movie who Jimmy is, right? But his father and him go into this house. His father explains, "Hey, you know what? This house is the closest to the water, so this thing's been raided hundreds and hundreds of times. But we're gonna look through it anyway." So they start going through drawers and they start going through closets and whatever, just to see if there's anything else that they can scavenge. The kid finds a bunch of like unused silverware, like forks and knives, and he's like, "Hey, Dad, I found this. Do you need this?" Dad's like, "No, I don't. We've got enough of that. You can leave it." And they're searching the house, and then the boy hears a sound from another room and walks in, and what we see is a dead body, a seemingly dead body, hanging from the ceiling by its feet.
Yeah.
It's got a bag over its head, like they let the thing suffocate probably. And there's the name Jimmy carved into the back of the body. Like they went and cut strips of flesh away completely to where the letters were really fat, and it says Jimmy all the way down his back.
Mm-hmm.
The kid's like, "What is this, Dad? Why is this guy here?" The dad said, "Well, it looks like they took this guy and they hung him up and they left him for the infected to get, right?"
Yeah.
And at this point, we think the body's dead, but when the kid gets close enough to it, it wakes up
It starts moving.
and starts trying to get him. But the body's hands are tied behind its back, and it's got a bag over its head, so it's not able to see what it's biting at. It's obviously an infected, right? And the dad says, "Jimmy, shoot it," because this is his second chance to get, a dead zombie. Like, he has to kill one. That's a rite of passage. So dad says,
Yeah.
"Shoot it, Jimmy. Shoot it, Jimmy." Jimmy pulls his bow back to shoot it, but is shaking and scared. And his dad's like, "Jimmy, shoot it." And the whole time that the infected is moving back and forth and freaking out, it's loosening itself from its ropes. Not only the ones on the ceiling where its feet are attached, but also the ropes that are behind its back. And it's starting to free itself from the ropes, right? Jimmy's scared. He can't fire the arrow. Eventually, the zombie breaks itself free, hits the ground, and starts to move towards him. And the dad has to shoot the thing in the head with an arrow to get it to stop. Right?
Isn't it the boy? No, I think the boy does it. Doesn't the boy at the last moment shoot him in the head?
No, the dad has to, because the boy waited way too long. Yeah. Spike waited way too long to kill this thing, so the dad again had to kill it. Again, Dad's like, "Don't hesitate. When I tell you to do something, do it, because you could have seriously been injured right then." And Spike is like, "Dad, I just couldn't do it. I don't know what's wrong with me. I couldn't fire the arrow." It's okay. After they've killed that zombie and they've gone through the house to see if there's anything to take, they didn't find anything to take, and they leave the house and head back to the forest. And we get the idea that they're heading back to mainland at this point.
Yes.
And that's when they come across the deer's head in the tree. Yeah, so we got that montage. And because of the fact that the father now knows that there's an alpha around, and you get the feeling that alphas bring with them large groups of zombies, because it's kind of implied that the normal infected follow the big ones around. I'm going to call them Berzerkers because that's what they're referred to later. Alpha and Berzerkers. So when an alpha's around, you have a bunch more zombies. And so he notices that the deer is in the tree, and he says, "Well, okay, I don't think we're going to be able to get much further now, so we're going to have to take sleep here for the night and then go back in the morning."
Yeah.
So they go back in the house, and no, I'm wrong. They start trying to head back. They start heading back.
Yes. Yeah.
And then on the horizon, they see the alpha, right?
No, they first see one or two zombies popping up, and then they just stay quiet at the moment because the zombies hadn't noticed them yet. Then after one or two zombies, the big alpha comes, and then a lot of others follow him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And they see that guy on the horizon, right? So the other zombies are running towards them because zombies have noticed him, and on the horizon, we only get a silhouette. But it's a silhouette of this giant, over 6 foot tall beast of a zombie with shoulders, muscles, everything. And he's just kind of standing there at the horizon watching them as the zombies chase them, right? Zombies start chasing them. Dad and Spike head directly back to the house. And the whole time they're running back to the house, he's telling Jimmy, "Okay, run in the house, run in the house." And the dad is walking backwards with his arrow pointed at the door. A couple zombies make it in. He shoots those zombies in the face and in the heart. So they're down, and he keeps doing that as they're heading up the stairs. I think there's like 5 zombies that are killed by the dad on the way up the stairs. When they get to the top of the stairs, there's an attic, right? And it's obvious there's an attic because there's a hole in the roof. There's really no way to get up there because there's no ladder. So what the dad does is boost Jimmy up on his shoulders and try to put him into the attic. But while he's doing that, zombies are still coming up the stairs after them, right? So he has to basically shove Jimmy into the attic and then shoot the rest of the zombies before he can come up. Eventually, he finishes off the zombies, goes up in the attic with his son. He tells him, hey, be quiet. If we don't make sound, they won't come here. They won't know we're here. And so that's what they do. And they fall asleep in bed down there for the night. Right.
Yeah.
Now, in the middle of the night, or maybe this is early the next morning, I'm not really sure, they're awakened by the house falling apart. Right. Because whatever.
But before that, before that, Matt, they have the discussion you previously mentioned. No, that's where the kid,
Which one?
where Spike, no, it's have like, oh, Dad, I'm so sorry, I disappointed you, and blah blah blah. Yeah, because he was really, had the strong thoughts, and then the dad was just like, calming down. So, nay, don't worry, it's normal. You acted much better than other people. He said, I've seen full grown men that just could not even make a shot. So it's like kind of calming down the kid. He said, nah, it's fine. No, there's people that do way worse. And then they're waking up like this kind of earthquake thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're up there. What it seems like after when they start to wake up is, like you said, it's almost like an earthquake, but it's not actually an earthquake.
Yeah.
I think it's animals running, isn't it?
I'm not really sure what it was. I never understand that it's mentioned, because once they get out of the house, no, the kid asks the dad, "What was that?" And he says, "Well, I don't know. It's an old house. Probably it just fell in." So I'm not sure actually what happened, because it was not really an earthquake.
I think I remember. I think I remember a stampede of animals running around the house and running past, like a large group of animals.
Yeah.
And we kind of got a glimpse of it, but we didn't really see it because you hear hooves and stuff.
Yeah. That
stampede causes the house to start to fall apart. So they run out of the house as quick as they can and get out the door before the house collapses. The house collapses, and they decide, okay, that sound that the house just made, all of that falling and that whole racket, that is going to draw zombies to our location. So we have to get back to the beach as quick as possible, right? So they start hauling ass to the beach. As they're hauling ass to the beach, the Spike looks in the distance and notices that there's a fire, right? There's a fire that's set up kind of on a mountainside near them. And he's like, "Dad, look, fire." And the dad already knows what that is, right? He's like, don't worry about that. It's there are other people who live out here that are not infected. It's probably one of them, right? But what the dad actually knows is that is a person that he is scared of, and everybody on the island is scared of. And we'll find out about that a little later, right? Because that's all that's said about this fire at this time. They start heading back, and as they're about to get close to the beach, there's a stampede of zombies that see them and start chasing them. And these things they were drawn by the sound of the house, and now they realize that there's two people that are not infected that are running for the mainland. As they're running for the mainland, so it's interesting because we kind of get to see this land bridge, not at full tide, but as the tide is about to go over it. Right. So you get the land bridge, which they came across the first time. There was no water on it. It was just a land bridge. Now the land bridge is covered by probably 2 inches of water, which is enough for them to get across. Right. So they haul ass across this land bridge, and behind them is a large number of zombies. But out from that large number of zombies comes an alpha, because he's hauling ass faster than the zombies are. That's when they realize there's a zombie behind, an alpha behind them. And it's a cool scene because it's kind of foggy, so you can't really see the alpha. You just see his shadow and you hear his feet. And it's like another stampede of animals, because this dude is so heavy and so big. It's like a juggernaut running along this land bridge, and they hear his feet hitting the land bridge and splashing water as he's running behind them. These two guys, the father and the son, are booking it, dude. They're hauling ass. Like, they're running. And this thing, the shadow of this thing, is getting closer and closer and closer behind them as they run. The footsteps get louder. You know that this thing is right on their tail. And right as they get to the front of the gate, they've probably got a good 200 meters on this thing. Like, it's pretty close behind them. And this is the part you were talking about earlier. They start screaming at the gate, "Let us in, let us in. There's an alpha. Let us in." The two guys that are at the top poke their heads over, and they're like, "Oh, shit. Are you infected? Are you infected?" The dad's like, "No, we're not infected. Look at us. Everything's fine. Open the gate." And the guy at the top is like, let us see your eyes. Let's see your eyes. And so I think somebody runs down and peeps through the hole at the bottom that you're talking about and looks in their eyes to see that neither of them are infected. And the two guys that are up in the tower open fire on the alpha that's running behind them, right? They hit this thing in the face. They hit him in the heart. This thing is full of arrows and he's still not going down. And this is fucked up because that means to take one of these things down, you basically need an armada. You basically need like a whole row of archers to fire at this thing until it just can't take anymore. It is literally a juggernaut of a zombie.
But I think that happens before they check them, because you can see like the father pulling away and then they shoot him down. No? And then he gets back up again. We have like, at this point, they've already sounded alarm, the two guards, and they have like 10, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would say like multiple people standing up shooting arrows at them. And then the alpha goes down. And then comes the scene where you just described, where he's like, let us in, let us in. No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And does the alpha get back up? I can't remember that part.
The second time. The first time he gets back up, but then the second time they just keep on shooting at him and eventually he dies.
Okay, so they knocked this thing down, right? And that was long enough for them to beg to be let in, saying they're not infected. And then it got back up and they had to shoot it down again. These things are beasts, dude. But eventually they realize they're not infected and they let them in the gate and they close it. And that's the end of it. I remember thinking in the scene, what happened to the other zombies that were chasing them? Did you get that too? Because there were multiple zombies behind the alpha.
No, that was in the beginning, not when they came back. I mean, when they went towards the house, there was multiple zombies. A few of them killed, and otherwise stayed down. But once they got back out of the house, there weren't any zombies inside. I mean, one or two, then they shot down. No, and they thought they weren't being followed. Until they were halfway over the landmass, until they saw the alpha coming. And as far as I remember, it was only the alpha that was behind them. No, that was after them.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Okay, so they both made it back to the island alive. We see people setting up kind of a feast, like they're setting tables, they're setting food out. They're getting ready to prepare for a big celebration because that's what happens when someone comes back from their outing for the first time, right? So this is the transition from a young boy into a man, and that's the way this society sees it. And so they've got a big party going. The next scene that we see is the kid's father, Jamie, standing up in front of a huge crowd of people in this room where everybody's drinking. Spike is standing right next to him. His father is retelling the story of what happened, but not exactly, right? So this father is a good father. I'll say that. Like, okay, he may not be the best person in the world, but he's a good father, because what you would not want is to come back from this and the father to stand up in front of everybody and be like, yeah, he didn't kill a single fucking zombie. Not one. I had to kill them all, which is the truth. But he doesn't do that. He gives Spike a beer. Yeah.
He does the exact opposite. Yeah.
Yeah, the exact opposite. He gives Spike a beer and says, drink up. And he starts telling the story about how his kid picked off multiple zombies.
Yeah.
And I love that. I can praise that because he's a good dad. Like, and Spike is telling him the whole time, he's like, Dad, that's not how it happened. He's like, shh, shh. Yeah, like, I'm like, I'm saving your manhood here. Shut the fuck up. So he's like pushing the kid, and he's like, drink your fucking beer, you know, because he's got a beer for the first time because he's a man. He's like, drink your fucking beer. And he's like telling the story. Everybody's cheering. Everybody's singing the praises of Spike for having killed all these zombies, whatever. Spike's not feeling good about this. He's like, that didn't really happen. I kind of feel like a loser right now. I know what my dad's doing, but I'm not into it. His dad, who we know has a sick wife that's home in bed right now, who can't be here for the celebration. There's one woman in the crowd who is obviously taking a liking to him. It's kind of implied that this is not the first time these two know each other, right? And his dad is stinking drunk and leaves the party with this girl, right? Spike notices it and follows them, right? So he leaves the party while everybody's partying and follows his dad with this girl. He comes around a corner and he notices that the girl and his dad are starting to make out and are probably about to have sex, right? This completely destroys Spike. And it kind of turns him from like being very proud of his father and looking up to his father to now disliking his
Yeah.
father because he's
Yeah,
obviously moving
what-
on from the relationship with his mom because he knows she's going to die and he's cheating on his mom.
Yeah, yeah.
Pretty typical. For this reason alone, I don't like this character too much.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind
Kind of
of
a
it's
jerk.
kind of the thing is, I'm always kind of guy. I mean, if you cheat if you cheat on your partner, it kind of depends on the situation. You know,
Yeah.
I always that kind of guy to say there's nothing that really justifies it. You know, but I would not necessarily call somebody a bad person or dislike them because they do this once or twice. But then there's just a thing that this apparently has been going on for quite some time, and he has a sick wife at home. You know, that's kind of like
Yeah.
I mean, if you have like a sick wife at home that's seriously ill and you're banging that's I don't know. That's just a whole new level.
It's up to the viewer, man. I mean,
Yeah.
you can choose to view this behavior however you want to view it. I personally, I don't know. I don't think it's a great trait. If
Yeah.
the person I had that was home was very ill and dying, and I really cared about this person, I would probably spend my time at this party drinking as much as I could, and then I would
Yeah.
go home to my partner who's sick. You know, but
Of course,
this guy
of
chooses
course.
to
What-
do this. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily make him a bad guy. It just makes him someone who doesn't make very good decisions. Especially
Yeah, a bad-
You add
I mean-
alcohol to any decision, and it's never a good decision.
Yeah, of course, but it does not make him necessarily a bad guy, but it definitely makes him a bad husband and a bad partner. That's what it makes him. No.
Well, it makes him. The point of the whole thing, though, is that it makes him a bad person now in the eyes of his son, right?
Exactly.
So-
Yeah.
His son now does not like him at all, and is kind of disillusioned with his father now.
Mhm.
So he goes running to his mom, up in her bedroom, jumps in bed with her. She's happy to see him, although she does not remember where he went. She doesn't know what's going on. And he's like, "It's okay, Mom. You know, I'm here. Don't panic. Don't worry. Everything's fine." His father, I think his father noticed he was making out with a girl and followed him, right? So his father then comes up and there's a confrontation between his father and him, but it's no?
You're getting it wrong because this happened. The confrontation between him and his father happens the next morning because the Spike, you know, he sleeps in the same bed as his mom, not because she's sick again or whatever. And the next morning, the father comes in and wakes both of them up. That's how it.
Right. Okay. So this is the next morning.
Yeah.
He's got a hangover. I remember that
You got
now.
shortly-
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not what was it? Because before that in the night, Spike comes home and there's like this older guy, at their house. I guess a friend of the family or whatever. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a community where everybody knows everyone. So, and then
Yeah.
the old man starts talking to Spike, about something about doctors or whatever, and he mentions the fire was
That's what it was.
probably
Yeah.
exactly was probably Doctor what I'm just going to call him Dr. Nutjob because I don't remember his name.
Dr. Nutjob. Although he's not crazy. I really like this guy. Dr. Kelson
Yeah, well,
is his
he's eccentric, but he's not really crazy. But I'm
Mike,
just
what
going to call
doctor do you know that is not eccentric as fuck? I know several doctors and they're all like this.
I would not necessarily say so.
I mean, the
eccentric,
ones
yeah.
that I know are like they're much more interested in like the human condition and trying to test things out, and they're not necessarily grossed out by things like things that would normally gross everybody else out. They're very interested in,
But
which is cool.
But the same, yeah, of course. But the same, yeah, you're right. But however, no. Then he says something about Dr. Nutjob or whatever, and blah blah blah. And then Spike is like, "Oh, what? That guy's a doctor?" And then they're like, "Yeah, maybe you should ask your dad about it." Yeah. He says, "I shouldn't have mentioned it." It's like, "Yeah, dumbass, but you already have." It's like it's one of those things people do, that I fucking hate. Now, when you're talking to them, they say something, and they're like, "Oh, I should not really talk about this." Why the fuck did you bring it up then, moron?
This we should call this guy Hagrid, because Hagrid does the same shit throughout the Harry Potter series. It's like Harry Potter is like, "What about this?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, that's this and that. I shouldn't have told you that. Never mind." This guy's fucking Hagrid. He's like, "Yeah, this and that. This guy used to be my doctor back in the day, and I probably shouldn't have told you that." That's what that is. So, and this was brought up by the conversation of the kid telling him that he saw a fire in the distance, and that's when he was like, yeah, that's Dr. Kelson, blah, 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 whatever.
Mhm.
I'm not going to tell you about that. You should ask your dad about it. Now, the thing that I do not remember is when he asked his dad about it, because the only thing that I remember now is them getting in an argument upstairs. So when
Yeah,
did his
that's
father bring this whole thing
well.
up?
First, Spike, after he talks to this guy, he goes up with his mom. His mom is rambling something because she's not well at the moment. No, he calms his mother down. They go to sleep. No, then the dad wakes them up the next morning, and the kids goes out to his room. No, the next you see, I guess this is a few hours later, where the father is making breakfast again for him and his kid, as he usually does. This is then where they get into the argument, where
Right.
Spike confronts his dad because his dad is making eggs or whatever, and blah blah blah. No, and Spike confronts him again, saying like, "Here, what about doctors? You say there weren't any, and whatever." No. And then the dad says, "No, there aren't." And he says, "What about Doctor Nutjob?" And then he turns around, looks at him, and is okay. Yeah, that guy's out there, but we stay away from him. Nope, the guy is bad news. Stay away from him.
Yeah.
And then the boy kind of gets aggravated. He's like, "Why?"
Yeah.
So
And this is where
then
you
the
get
dad
the whole
explains.
story.
Yeah, he explains the whole story to them, that it was one when he was scavenging out a few years back with a few other people from the community, that they came across this guy, and he had like multiple dead bodies lined up perfectly in a row. No?
And we get that scene of him standing down there by a fire, and there's literally thousands of human bodies all lined up on the ground, in like almost like they're lined up in order to be burned, right?
Yeah.
And the doctor is standing there at the fire, and the doctor notices that the hunting party is up top and sees them, and he does this, like he calls them to come down, but the hunting party is scared to death of him because they think he's crazy. Yeah. Anyway, it's a cool scene because I think anybody that would have seen this would have been very taken aback by it and also been very scared, even though we find out later this doctor's intentions are not evil. And he's not a bad guy. In fact, he's probably more of sound mind than the people in this community. Yeah. So, yeah, but what we get from this is that Spike realizes that this guy's a doctor, and that he's probably the only doctor anywhere near them, and that his mom is sick, and he needs to get this doctor to see his mom. That's the whole thought process. And I think this works. I think there was some discussion online about how they felt like this was a bad idea and that this wouldn't happen. I think that this would happen. Is it a good idea? No. It's a very bad idea.
No, I mean, this is no, it's not a good idea. This is like the dumbest decision possible. You have like somebody that is clearly not well, has memory issues, and is also a little bit psychotic, and because they're not realizing what's happening around them, no, and taking them out into an area where you're gonna what's gonna take you multiple hours to walk just to see a doctor, while you know outside is only zombies, is like the dumbest decision a person can make. But this is like a young kid, and he knows that nobody in the community can help him, so I just guess it's like this is a risk he's willing to take to save his mom. You know, even though it's an insane.
And that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happens. And I was thinking about it, after we watched the movie, and I was like, you know what? If I was that kid's age, at that age, your mom means everything to you. She's your whole world.
Yeah.
And if there's a chance that you can save your mom's life, then anything's worth it. Even if you can't shoot a zombie in the face and kill it, which this kid has proven he cannot do. He's not capable of it, right? Or at least we think so. But he goes upstairs to his mom. The thing after the conversation with his dad about the doctor, the kid says, well, what are you going to do when mom dies? Are you going to go be with that girl I saw you with last night? His dad flips out, says, shut your fucking mouth. Don't talk about that ever again. That starts the kid crying, and Spike runs upstairs to his mom, right? Dad follows him. Dad slaps him, right? Slaps him hard. Yeah. Kid runs upstairs to his mom. The dad follows. When the kid gets to the door, the dad stops him because obviously the dad thinks he's going to go tell his mom that he was messing around with some other woman, right? Obviously.
Yeah.
He stops him. The kid turns to his dad and says, you know what? Just leave us alone. You go away and leave me and mom alone. We don't need you anymore. You're a shit father, blah, 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 blah. And I think the dad walks back down the stairs and kind of goes away. At least I think so. I can't remember if he stays and Spike goes somewhere else. It doesn't really matter. The next scene we get is Spike goes to his mom's room and says, "Hey, Mom, we have to go somewhere." Mom's like, "Well, where are we going?" He's like, "Mom, don't worry about it. I need to take you somewhere." So Mom gets up and follows him, right?
Yeah.
Spike has already got a plan hatched in his head about how he's going to get this done. This is pretty ingenious, I thought, of him. Like, he brings his mom close enough to the gate and says, "Mom, wait here, don't go anywhere," and then runs up to the gate where the two guys are up top watching, and he says, "Hey, there's a fire." He sets a fire on a barn. Right.
Yeah.
Spike sets fire to a barn. It's not like a really important barn, but it's a barn either way. He sets fire to it. He says, "Hey, there's a fire. There's nobody else here. Come put the fire out, blah, blah, blah." The guys that are on top of the gate are like, "One of us can go, but, one of us has to stay because this is our post and we don't leave our post."
Yeah.
And the kid is very adamant that the fire is out of control and that guy needs to come down and help put out the fire. So eventually he convinces the guy comes down running and heads towards the fire. Now there's nobody left on the gate. So Spike runs back, grabs his mom, brings her to the gate, opens the gate, and they leave, right? So they are heading out across the land bridge, which is now no longer submerged, so they can make their way across it pretty easy. The only thing Spike has is a bow and some arrows, and they head out across the land bridge. They get to the end of the land bridge, and then they go and hide in the forest, right? And he tells his mom, "Hey, there's a doctor, and we're going to go see the doctor. But for right now, because the sun is going down, we need to take shelter. So we're going to take shelter in that old church over there. There's an old church that's been there a while. They go into what looks like kind of above the ground catacombs where there's a sarcophagus. Somebody's buried there. And then they go there and kind of bed down, right? And so there's a cute exchange between him and his mom. He says, "Mom, I care about you, and I'm going to make sure that you're taken care of. We just need to survive the night, and after we survive the night, we can go see the doctor in the morning." So the two go to sleep. As they're sleeping, we get kind of this weird view of one of the low and slow zombies, the big fat ones that crawl across the ground, is kind of crawling towards Spike and his mom while they're sleeping. We're not really sure if this is a dream or not, because it kind of struck me as a dream that maybe one of them is having, like maybe Spike is dreaming about this thing crawling towards him and his mom, but it's actually happening. And so the thing gets closer and closer and closer, and right about the time when it's about to grab Spike by the foot, the scene cuts and we see Spike wake up, right? Spike wakes up and looks around and notices that there's a low and slow zombie with a bag over its head in front of the sarcophagus, and it's dead, right? He goes, "Oh my God, what happened? Somebody killed this thing while we were sleeping." His mom wakes up and she's like, "I have no idea. I don't know. I didn't see anything and I didn't wake up." That's not actually what happened, because the mom has memory loss. She doesn't remember that she woke up in the middle of the night hearing this thing coming, threw a bag over its head, and bashed its head up against the sarcophagus until it died. Like, mom's a brutal fucker. I like mom, If she wasn't sick, she'd probably be like top-notch hunting material. But she basically saved her and Spike's life in the middle of the night and has no recollection of it whatsoever. Let's see. So they encounter Eric now, right? We get a cut from this scene to a scene with some military guys that are in military gear.
Exactly.
They're in military gear. They have Swedish flags on their uniforms. They also have NATO patches. So the patches that are on their uniforms are NATO. So we know that NATO survived through all of this. These soldiers are they're wearing combat helmets, they're wearing combat fatigues, they're wearing plate carriers, and they're loaded with weapons. So they all have weapons. They jump down in this canal, and they're pursued by like 8 or 9 zombies. And so these zombies are chasing them. One of the zombies takes out one of the guys and basically infects him. The other 3 soldiers have to put him down because he's infected, and they keep running. The whole time that they're running, they're taking out zombies because they're running backwards, right? They go and they take shelter in kind of what looks like a sewer. Like they jump down a sewer grate and they go
Yeah.
underground.
Mhm.
It's pitch black, so they turn on their lights. They have lights on their helmets that are on either side, and so they get a good view of what's in front of them. They're walking down the sewer, and then they hear like very large footsteps behind them, right? And they turn around, and you get your first full view of an alpha and what these things actually look like with light. Um, the only way I can describe these things, Mike, and I really like this because this whole area, and I think they did this on purpose, this whole area in the Middle Ages was ransacked by berserkers and Vikings, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of where this came from. But
Mm.
this thing resembles a berserker as described by people that had actually seen them in history. It is a very large, muscle-bound,
Yeah.
naked man that is crazy.
Yeah, the Kings, yeah, because they're like muscle bound and on drugs, so like they were totally fucking insane. That's what you get from this point. But there's one thing at this point I want to mention that I thought was extremely odd and did not really understand why all the zombies in this movie are nude. That like literally,
Good
they're
point.
all that does not make did not make sense to me. All the zombies in this movie are full on nude. Why? I just ask why. I mean, because okay, even if I can understand, like if half of their clothes were gone, maybe one of them was not wearing pants because over the time the clothes just got shredded or whatever. No,
Well,
but entirely
okay, so
nude.
I was thinking about that too when I watched this, and it didn't make sense. And then I kind of started thinking about it a little bit later. So we know now that the infection stays there, but the body of the person that's infected continues to grow, right? So
Yeah.
these zombies that we're seeing are obviously not zombies from 28 years ago, because if they were zombies from 28 years ago, they'd either be dead of old age or they would be looking older in some way. But every zombie that we see in this movie is a younger looking zombie, which tells me these were kids that were infected and then grew up, which of course they would grow out of their clothes,
Probably, yeah.
right? Yeah. And so
Okay,
that's
yeah,
why
that
none
makes
of them are
sense. I
wearing
didn't think
clothes.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that
why
makes
none of them are
sense.
wearing
Yeah,
clothes. I thought it was an odd choice as well. But then I started to think about it. I'm like, well, all the zombies that we see are probably in their early to late 20s. And some of them are maybe a little bit older than that, but none of them are old. And so they
That's
would have
true,
been
yeah.
kids that were infected that shed their clothes because the clothes were obviously too small.
Yeah.
These zombies don't have much of a mind, so they don't really care about putting on clothes or anything like that, So they're all naked. Now, a little behind the scenes trivia about that. I wondered, because I understand that if you put kids in movies, right, younger kids that are a younger age, so like this kid is 12. I'm not really sure how old the actor is, but he's probably around that age. If you put kids in movies, you can't have nude people. You can't have them interact with nude people. It's against child labor laws. So what they had to do was every zombie in this film, the breasts on the women were prosthetic. All the genitals that you see in this movie are prosthetic because that's how they got around the child labor laws. And that also explains why every fucking berserker has like a fucking 14-inch cock hanging down to his knees, right? They were like, hey man, go big or go home, right? And so that's what they did. Like the berserkers, and this is not a new thing. Everybody's talking about this online and there's huge jokes about it. But the berserkers, when you see them, had this gigantic cock, right? And that's all anybody can talk about in this movie. And I just think it's funny. I think it's funny. But yeah, everything you see is a prosthetic because they couldn't actually have nude people. But it's done really well. Like you cannot tell that the boobs are prosthetic. You can't tell that anything's prosthetic. It all looks very real. And it's very off-putting too, because these things are disgusting, Mike. They're fucking disgusting.
Yes.
They
As
all
zombies should be, no?
Yeah, well, the cool thing about these zombies is they don't rot. Like they do rot, and we see one later that is rotted, but probably because of malnourishment. It's the same thing that happens to a human body when it's malnourished. It starts to rot and get thin and all that stuff. But these zombies are well fed, obviously, because they've been living off of forest creatures and deer and whatever else. They're not in particularly bad shape. They're like very healthy looking, running rage zombies. that are disgusting. They're covered in mud. They obviously not really taking baths. We do get to see a scene later where some zombies are like playing around in water. So they have their own way about doing things like wild animals would do, right? So they are cleaning themselves in water, but they're still disgusting. Anyway, I digress. So we're in the sewer scene. These 3 soldiers that are left get attacked by this berserker. The first thing the berserker does, and I fucking love this effect because I'm a total gore hound. He reaches and grabs one soldier by the helmet right here underneath his front teeth and pulls, and you hear bone splintering, and you hear flesh being pulled apart from flesh, and he rips this guy's head off Predator style with the spine attached, right? He rips the head out, the spine is attached, the berserker grabs the bottom of the spine with both hands and starts beating one of the soldiers to death with the head that he just ripped off. And it's fucking brilliant. I love this scene, dude. I was like, I'm going to have to go back and watch that one again when I get home if I can find it anywhere, because it's a cool scene, right? So he's beating the other soldier to death with the head and spine of this soldier that he just killed. As he's doing this, the one soldier that's left, who we find out his name later is Eric, right? He shoots the berserker as he's backing up and runs out of the sewer and leaves the berserker down there. As he's doing this, he runs into the woods and runs into the mother and Spike, right? When he does this, he kind of thinks they're infected at first. He's not sure, so he's got his weapon on him. He's like, "Are you infected? Are you infected?" They're both like, "No, we're not infected."
No, you mixed something up again, Matt.
Okay, tell me.
You forgot the gas station scene.
All right, fuck yeah. Okay, yeah, gas station scene. Thanks for that, because I would have totally tripped over this, right?
Yeah.
So Eric gets away, and that's the last thing we see of Eric for right now. Cut back to Spike and his mom. Spike and his mom are walking through the woods. Zombies spot them, and so they start running from the zombies. What they see now is a dilapidated gas station, right? The door looks like it's probably like tied shut or whatever. So Spike gets his mom to the door of the gas station right as the zombies are about to attack them, kicks the door open, pulls his mom inside, and shuts the door. Right? So the zombies are outside the door. What we notice inside the gas station is completely dark, and there is a kind of gas in the air, right? You can see it because every time light comes through the window, it kind of illuminates the gas that's in the air. This part makes no sense, and I wish they'd left it out of the movie. Because anybody who understands...
I mean... it's just if you understand anything, it's just like the only thing I like about it is because this is one of the scenes that shows that these zombies are not undead now, because once they get into the gas station, you can see how they start to go like they have a problem breathing. So you can see that these zombies clearly that they're alive, because either way the gas would not have any effect on them, no?
Right.
But this is the you scene that makes absolutely no sense, because you have these zombies going in, and then Eric says, "Get down," and he shoots, and then the entire thing explodes, and then the fire just goes over the mom and the kid. If they would be waiting in some kind of hutch, that might make sense, because you just have this is just a Stichflamme, no? I'm not sure what the English term is. But even if that in itself might work if there was some kind of lower position, like a basement they were in, no?
Yeah.
And then because this explosion is just like one big fire thing
fireball
that goes out. Stichflamme, no?
Yeah.
Is what's called in German. And then it's over. But even if that would have made sense, but even if this is like gasoline in the room, and this is like, how long has this gas station been down? How long has this gasoline been leaking? Because this could be for at least 30 years. And this is a gas station that is not air sealed. And if it's not air sealed, I mean, that gasoline is not going to stay evaporated inside that room for a period of 30 years. I think at the latest, after a period of, let's say, a year or two, maybe 3, that gasoline would be gone.
Yeah. And
I'm not an expert on this, but I know it would have to be air sealed for that gasoline to stay in there.
Right. Well, there's a few things that don't make sense about it. Like this is one of those things where if you watch a movie, especially a horror film, you kind of have to like forget about some things that don't make sense. But it doesn't make sense for a lot of reasons. One, the reason you said this gas station, the air and the gas would have leaked out of this place, and there would not been this huge fucking cloud of gas fumes in the air, right? That makes no sense. The second thing that makes no sense is if you were to ignite this gas in the air, gas particles, when you light them with fire, expand. They don't stay the same way that they do. Every little droplet of that gas gets ignited, and when it does, it expands. If this happened inside of a gas station the way that Eric stepped on top of the roof and shot into the room, it would not matter if him and his mom were on the floor. That gas would have blown that gas station to pieces. There'd be nothing left of it. And everything within probably like a 200-meter radius of this gas station would be lit on fire. The entire fucking forest, right? But because it's a movie, okay. Second of all, how the fuck did this fucking young soldier know that the gas fumes were inside and that if he shot inside, it would blow everything up? Like, was he here before? Was he at this gas station before? Probably. But any soldier, especially one that's NATO soldier that has these weapons and this type of training, would have never done that. Would have never done that. Especially not while standing on top of the fucking building. That's fucking dumb as shit. Of course. Anyway, he opens the hatch on the gas station while the zombies are running in after them and says, "Get on the floor, get on the floor." So they get on the floor, and then he shoots inside, and the gas station explodes, but it explodes outwards, and nothing on the ground is burned or touched. So these two are completely okay. Why? I don't know. Armor. But whatever. Movie, okay. Yeah, plot armor, exactly. So everything explodes. All the zombies are dead because they were standing up and those two were on the ground. They come out of the gas station. Eric meets them, says, "You guys are not infected, right?" They're like, "No, we're completely fine." Eric's like, "Okay." He explains, I was on a NATO mission, on an aircraft carrier or an armada, a fleet outside of the island on a normal patrol, and our boats went down and sank. And so we got on a life raft and came back to the mainland, and we were here, and my buddies got attacked, and I'm the only one left, right? And so he has a weapon, and they're talking. He decides to go with them because really he doesn't have a choice. He's left. He explains to them, "I might as well get used to being here because I cannot go back now." And his mom and Spike are like, "Why?" He's like, "Well, for quarantine reasons, they've said that anybody that goes on the mainland anywhere in the UK is never allowed back, right? So once you've been on the mainland, they assume you're infected, and if you try to come back, they will not let you come back. So now Eric is stuck there for life, right?"
Exactly, yeah.
Kind of shitty. Now comes one of my favorite scenes. So they decide to take a break, and they sit down in the grass and relax for a little while because they've been walking. Spike and Eric are talking, and Eric's like, "So what do you do? What do you do out there where there's no infected?" He's like, "Oh, we live pretty much a normal life. I have a girlfriend. I'm gonna marry her," is what he says, And Spike says, "Oh, okay. What does she look like?" And he's like, "Well, I got my phone right here." He's got a normal fucking phone from
a smartphone,
right, a smartphone. So we know that smartphone technology has developed past 2000 because the rest of the world has moved on. The UK is not, because the UK is the only place where the zombie infection is spread and is now taken a hold. The rest of the world has moved on. He pulls out a cell phone and starts going through photos, and he finds one of his girlfriend, and he's like, "Oh yeah, here's my girlfriend." And we get this fucking picture of exactly the kind of shit that we have in this culture right now. It is a blonde who is just completely dolled up in makeup, hair extension, fake boobs, gigantic plumped up lips. Eye injections, cheek raising injection, fucking all the plastic surgery you can have. Blow up.
It's extreme. If it was only the boobs alone, I think nobody would actually give a shit. But it's like everything, just like you said. This does not even look like a real woman. you know? And the
No, it
worst
looks
thing
like a
about
fucking
it,
doll.
exactly. The worst thing about it is the fucking lips, you know? Even though I don't like everything else about it, I mean, I could accept that, you know? But the fuck, I mean, the lips that like you have
Yeah.
lips like the size of
It's
my
that-
fist.
Yeah.
I go. It's I don't know.
It's
I
a
never
perfect
understood
joke.
this trend.
It's a perfect joke on our society, is
Yeah.
what it is.
Exactly. And it's funny
Perfect
because
joke.
the kid Spike sees the picture and he's like, "Oh my god, I know a girl like that. She had a fish allergy or some nut allergy, and everything swelled up in her face."
Yes. It's fucking brilliant. It's a diss on our society completely. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
I think that needed to be done. And the fact that he commented on like, oh yeah, she has a nut allergy is hilarious. Like she looks like a sock monkey. You know the sock monkeys from the 80s with the face and the gigantic lips? It's like
Oh yeah,
looks
yeah,
like a
yeah.
fucking sock monkey, dude. I was laughing in the
True.
theater. I was like, that's fucking hilarious. But he's like, yeah, I'm never gonna see her again because I can't come back. Whatever. I really like that scene. That was fucking hilarious. So they decide to get up and keep walking, right? And so they're walking through the woods. They're trying to get to the doctor, which the kid knows where the doctor is. So he's walking with his mom and Eric now. Eric has got his weapon and he's kind of following them and watching around. It's good they have this guy, right?
Yeah.
They're talking about the different types of zombies. Eric says, these big, gigantic ones that you guys call alphas, we call them berserkers. And the reason they call them berserkers is because he's from Sweden and their entire history and everything they learn in school has to do with the Vikings and everything else. He says these things resemble berserkers that we were taught about when we were kids. And for whatever reason, we understand on the mainland that the virus reacts differently with some people. So some people just become infected and become normal zombies. And then others, when they get bitten or they get infected, it acts like steroids. And the government hasn't figured out why yet, but some people in particular, it's almost like they get pumped up on steroids, they get really big, and they lose their mind, and they're just basically a mindless juggernaut. And he says, it's interesting. I wonder if I got infected, if that would happen to me, because I'm actually a Viking. Remember that? He's like, I'm actually a Viking, so maybe if I get infected, I'll turn into one of those things, like a big Viking berserker, right?
Yeah.
Joke's on you, asshole. Anyway, they go a little bit further. And they hear something inside of a wrecked train cart. They're passing a train that's wrecked and has probably been there for a little while. They hear something, specifically the mother hears something, and she goes into the train and kind of leaves the group. And so Spike is like, where's my mom? They realize that she's gone inside the train, and this is where we get a view of what his mom sees. She's walking down the aisle in the train. There's a woman's voice that is kind of screaming and sounds like she's in pain, and she's sitting in one of the chairs on the train. Mm-hmm. She starts to creep closer and closer to figure out what the sound is. When she gets there, she realizes that it's a pregnant zombie female who is about to give birth, right? This scene kind of bothered me a little bit for a few reasons, but I mean, they're not big enough reasons to really give a shit, right? So the compulsion of these zombies is to eat human flesh overall. That is an established thing in every zombie franchise. Even if she was about to give birth to this baby, she would have tried to attack this woman. But she doesn't, because the zombie is in a shitload of pain and is about to give birth to a baby. So the mother, knowing about childbirth, kneels down in front of the zombie and grabs both of the woman's hands, right, the zombie's hands, and gives her something to brace against as she pushes out the baby. The zombie doesn't try to attack her. It grabs her hands and pushes out the baby, right? When the baby is born, it's pretty graphic, right? You get to see like the baby being born straight out of the zombie. Pretty gross effect. But it is a normal baby that gets born, right? This baby is not infected. There's nothing wrong with his eyes. Go ahead.
But this is the thing, where I say like it was kind of weird situation because they have like the zombie having the baby or whatever. The thing is, it's just like we know that this virus that this zombie is just it's a virus, more or less, and these are still living creatures, so they're normal living. So technically, if a zombie got pregnant, if a woman was pregnant, no. It could be that the child, for two reasons, could be a healthy human child. For one, somehow the placenta is protecting the child from the infection, or the child has, for some reason, a genetic anomaly that makes it completely immune to the virus. Now, the thing is, if the child, for example, had genetic anomaly that made it immune, that immunity could have also had an effect on the mother, while the mother was not acting full-on zombie mode and was a little bit clear in the head. Because you can see this scene after she has the kid, and then they cut through the Bauchnabelschnur.
Yeah, the umbilical cord. Yeah,
the zombie mom passes out and is gone, and after a few seconds come back and charge towards them. That kind of implies to me that the child is just genetic immune to the virus, and somehow that also affected the mother. What would make the most sense in this scenario?
Yeah.
How much realistic that is, I don't know. It is actually realistic that technically could have happened, because you have it often with diseases like AIDS, for example. There's often women that are HIV positive, get pregnant, have a kid, but the kid is healthy. No? So technically that is possible. The other way around, like somehow the immunity of a child affecting the mother, I've only seen that in science fiction fantasy crap, so I don't know if it's realistic or not. But what bothers me about that is personally, because I do not believe that under the circumstances, a zombie would be able to get pregnant, or an infected woman would be able to get pregnant. Also, what I find hard to believe is the fact that you can say, like, these zombies are nude. A lot of them, the younger ones, because they were kids when they were infected, no?
Yeah.
So that means I do not think that this was a pregnant woman, no? That got infected with the virus, because she's relatively young. No, probably like in her mid 20s and 30s. So it probably was a zombie that got pregnant, and that is the part that I find to be unrealistic. That somebody infected with a virus like this would get pregnant. That's the unrealistic part about it. No?
It's I don't know. These things would have to be able to breathe, though, Mike. They are human, right? So.
They can
every
breathe.
Aspect
the gas
human.
station.
I'm sure that. Huh? What?
They can breathe, Matt. The gas station.
No, not breed. Breed.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
They would have to be able to breed, because so what we've seen about these zombies so far is, one, they have to eat. They have to be able to breathe fresh air. So why would not everything else be intact? The other thing that makes this is a biological argument, okay? The biological argument here would be that these things retain everything that makes them human, except for the fact that now their main impulse is to eat and attack, right? So
yeah, but
and I think they kind of showed that in another scene too, and I think that's why they did it. I mentioned earlier that we noticed that these zombies are taking baths, right? So there is a want and a desire to maintain some form of hygiene. Right. So when we first see this pregnant woman, we see her before, not just in the scene. We see her earlier, and she's hanging out with a bunch of other zombies that are bathing in water. Right. So there is, on a biological level, a need to do things that normal humans do, like bathe, eat, breathe fresh air, all that other things. Why wouldn't they breed? And not only that,
well, I'm not said breed. I just don't think it biologically would be possible, because this is a virus, and the thing is. One thing, being able to eat, breathe, or whatever is one thing, but being able to breed, that has. If you have a disease, no, that will affect if you can breed or not. Specifically, I would say probably more men than women. I would guess, no, because I think the fertility of men is more easily affected than the ones of women. No?
Yeah.
So that's just I just personally think that from the male side would not be possible to happen. Then there still is the thing, do they have a sex drive? That's kind of like it's just like the thing is, you could discuss about this for hours, but I just do not think, according to the virus that is this strong, that would to this level, I mean, be able to change the human physiology, for one, not turning them kind of into the mindless zombies because they're harder to kill, being able to turn people into this Berzerker thing, I personally do. This is clearly a virus that has an effect on people on a genetic level. No?
Yeah.
And I do not think. I think that that this would. I don't think that they would be able to breed. I'm sorry. I don't think so.
Maybe not.
I don't think that would
Maybe
be.
not.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if anyone is doing the breeding, and this is my own like headcanon. This is my headcanon. So what happens to men when you bolster them with testosterone, right? So if you take a guy and you pump him full of testosterone and he becomes this big beast, the other thing that goes along with that is an incredible sex drive. Like, it is annoying.
Yeah.
If you've ever talked to a woman who's been with one of these meatheads and these juicers that juice all the time, the one thing the women complain about is that they know when they juice, they want to get the fuck away from him because all he wants to do is bang all day, right? Because testosterone does that to your body. So if anybody is doing the impregnating, it's definitely the Berzerkers. I think the Berzerkers are running around just like banging everything that they can find.
Yeah,
like,
but this comes to the point. Probably why it's unsure if they could be able to breed is because you can specifically see that the child was healthy. Now, then there is the question, no? Does only this one child have a genetic? Because the question is, was it just that the placenta protected the child from the infection? No? Or was the child genetically immune to the virus?
Yeah,
so
like
that's kind of the question you can have, because if that's the case, technically it's possible that all children would have a genetic immunity towards the virus.
Yep.
But these children would unlikely grow up because they probably would be eaten directly after their birth.
They would be eaten or infected immediately. Yeah. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, but that's kind of the thing is not if they're immune. If they're immune, they wouldn't be infected. That's the kind of question you can have at this point. No? What's with that child? And this is where we come to, because the soldier kills the zombie mom. No, and he's like, put the child down. No, it's infected, and they're like, oh no, it's normal. I'm going to be honest. In this situation, I do think I would agree with the soldier. No, because I know it looks like a normal child, but you don't know. That's the point. You don't know. Is this child actually not infected, or is it just asymptomatic?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah,
I think being a soldier, I think probably your instincts would kick in, because we kind of go with our instincts. I would have killed the child. I would have. As horrible as that sounds, I would have killed the child.
Yeah, because the thing is,
it's a risk. It's a risk that you're not willing to take. There's only 3 of you.
It's a major risk because you don't know. You have no idea. Is this child actually immune? It might be infected, but just asymptomatic. No, like in the second part, you have no idea, and with no possibility to test this.
Yeah,
I understand the soldier fully. Yeah,
it's not worth the
risk. I
understand.
I totally understand the soldier at this point.
Yeah. Well, so no worries, because the soldier does not get the chance to kill the baby, right? He comes in, he sees them, like you said, put down the baby, it's infected. They try to explain to him that it's not infected. He doesn't care. He wants to shoot the baby. He kills the mother first because she charges at them, says, put down the baby. They don't want to put down the baby. And he starts giving them a countdown. He's like, when I get to 1, I'm going to kill the baby and you guys. So he goes 3, 2, and right when he's about to get to 1, a giant arm reaches down from the top of the train and grabs him by the head and yanks him through the roof, right? And the next scene that we get is the main alpha, the one that we saw earlier, jumps down through the roof of the train with Eric's head and spine in his hand, right? So he's decapitated Eric, and now he sees the other 2 with the baby and starts charging at them, right? So they jump out of the train as quick as possible, and they're running away, followed by this fucking giant Berzerker with Eric's head and spine in his hand. Go ahead.
But shortly before that, he stares at the. Shortly at that, he looks at the zombie they just killed. Zombie mom, and he first stops.
Yeah.
Look at her.
That's right.
Yeah, he looks at her for a moment, then looks back at them, then gets pissed off and charges at them. What also implies that he probably impregnated her.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
so
Probably the father.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So now you've got pissed off father Berzerker running behind them through the woods with Eric's head and spine in his hand. He's probably a good, I want to say 400 meters behind them. Like he's got a long distance between them that he has to close. They're
Yeah.
hauling at, and thankfully they're also very close to where the doctor is. Right. So they're running and they run up into the woods. And right before the Berserker is about to attack them, you see that a dart hits him in the chest or in the neck. I can't remember which one. And the Berserker stops and just stands there, kind of like a Mortal Kombat character that has just been whomped in his
Finish it.
Finish him. So he's standing there doing this.
Yeah.
And then you see the doctor for the first time, and the doctor is covered in red that you kind of assume is blood, but it's not blood. But he's completely covered in red, and he's got a dart tube in his hand because he just blew the dart into the Berserker. And he says, "Ha! I can't remember exactly what the chemical was that he hit the zombie with, but it's sodium something, but it's what we use to tranquilize animals with, right?" And he says, that mixture works very fast, doesn't it? And the mom and the kid are still in shock because they feel like they were about to be attacked by this thing. And they look back at the Berserker and he's just doing this. And the doctor says, "Yeah, so he's fine. He's no danger now. He's in La La Land, right?" And the doctor says, please excuse my appearance. This is not blood. This is actually another chemical that the virus does not like. It has a red color, so I coat myself in this every day because it keeps the virus from affecting humans if you do this, right?
Yeah.
And then he notices that the Berserker still has the head and spine of Eric in its hand. And he walks up, the doctor walks up to it and he goes, "Oh, okay." He has a name for it's Samson. Samson is the name.
Samson. Yeah.
That's the name that he's given him. And if you know that reference, it's also a Bible reference. There's a character in the Bible that's named Samson. He's a giant monster who terrorizes the Philistine in the Bible, right? And he was brought down by David with the stone that David hit him in the head with and killed him. But that's why he's got the name Samson, right?
Wasn't that Goliath?
So he walks up, huh?
Wasn't that Goliath? David and Goliath? The story you're talking about?
Oh yeah, you know what? I got him mixed up, dude. That's David and Goliath.
Yeah.
Samson is
Goliath.
the guy. Samson is the guy who let his hair grow really long and all of his strength was in his hair. And a woman convinced him to cut his hair. And when he cut his hair, he lost all his strength. You're right. I'm getting two stories confused. Okay. So that was Samson. The doctor reaches over and pulls the head and spine out of the Berserker's hand and says, "Who is this?" The kid says, "Hey, that's Eric. He was, we found him and he was protecting us and, Samson killed him." He said, "Okay, well, we'll find a good place for Eric." And they're like, "What the fuck is this guy's deal?" But they follow him, right? And so the doctor leads them to the place where he lives. And what we see is this gigantic, the only way to describe this is a totem pole. Multiple totem poles of bones stacked upon bones that are intricately tied together to form a pillar. And there's hundreds of these things and they're sticking out of the earth. It's just multiple pillars of bones. Really cool. Like I love this effect. I love that they did this. Like this has been this guy's work. And what he does is he explains, instead of letting the bodies rot and instead of letting all this death mean nothing, I wanted to create a memento mori, which memento mori is a Latin saying that means always be aware that you have to die. So as human beings, we live and we enjoy life, but we also have to understand and accept the fact that we are going to die someday. And so what he's done is he's erected all of these different totem poles of bones and all the dead into this giant work of art that he calls memento mori. And I thought that was really poetic and cool that they did that.
Yeah.
There's all these pillars of bones and everything, but in the middle of all of this is a gigantic stack of skulls. And these skulls are polished, and they're very pretty. And they stack from the bottom probably by, in width, maybe like 8 feet. And they go up in a Christmas tree style that's probably about, I'd say, maybe 20 to 30 feet high, right? And it's all the skulls from all of these bones that he's created the totem pole out of. And he takes Eric's skull and puts it inside of a furnace, which he has kind of on a seesaw type creation to where there's this big metal furnace that sits over fire. and he can move it with the seesaw into the water when he wants to chill it out, right? So he
Yeah.
takes Eric's head and he puts it in there to boil and puts it on the fire. And as he's doing that, kind of has a discussion with the mom and the kid. He's like, "So what's going on? What are you doing out here?" Eric says, "Hey, I heard that you were a doctor. Are you a doctor?" And he says, "Well, I was. I was a doctor, but now I'm basically the keeper of the dead," is what he says. "I'm a keeper of
Yeah.
all of the bodies and all of the people that have died here. My new purpose is to not let them be forgotten and to give them a home, right?"
Mm.
Uh, and so the kid explains to him, "Hey, my mom is really sick. She has some type of problem. I don't know what it is, but I'm here to see you to try to figure out what's wrong and if there's some way to help her," right? Uh, this is where we get the examination of the mom, right? So he does a quick examination, not a full examination, but a real quick one, and says, "Okay, yes, something's definitely wrong." He asks her questions about what she remembers from her days, if she has memory loss, all those kinds of things. He says, "It's something, but I'm going to need to do further examination to really determine what it is." At that time, he realizes that Eric's skull is done being boiled. So he says, "Give me a minute." Goes over, takes the seesaw, moves it to the water with the big furnace, and dips the furnace in the water, uh, which is now extinguished. He reaches in and grabs Eric's skull, pulls the remaining flesh off of it, and gives it to the kid and says, "Find a place in the centerpiece for Eric's skull." Right? Remember this?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Spike, who's the kid, takes the skull and goes over to the giant Christmas tree totem that's in the middle and puts the skull in with the other skulls, right? And kind of
Mhm.
gives it a spot. I love this whole thing, like this whole scene, the way it's filmed, and the angles that it's shot from. It really, really, really looks cool. This is my favorite part, the favorite set piece of the movie, probably because I'm a little bit morbid, but I really, really fucking love this. It's really cool. And so the doctor says, "Okay, we need to take a look at your mom now. It's nighttime." The doctor explains, "Don't worry, the zombies have not come to this area or attacked here, so we're completely safe." Why? I don't understand why. There's really no explanation of that. There's obviously noise coming from this area, right? The things that he does makes noise. We know that these zombies are drawn to noise, so why have the zombies not attacked there? This is a safe haven, and I don't know why, Mike. That's not explained.
No, not really.
Um, anyway, so he starts to examine the mom, and what he does is, if you have any type of like medical knowledge or any type of medical training, what he's doing is he's doing the typical type of exercises to figure out whether or not she has a brain tumor. One of those things
Yeah.
is to tell the person, "Touch your nose," and then reach out and touch my finger, and do that as fast as you can over and over and over again. The mom does that and she fails. She keeps missing his finger when she comes back from her nose, right? And then he asks her a few other questions. There's a few other tests that are done. When he's done, he kind of has a shitty look on his face, and he sits them both down and he says, "Okay, your mom has a form of cancer that is accelerated. I kind of have an idea what it is." He doesn't say brain tumor. He just says, "I kind of have an idea what it is, but I'm not able to secure the fact that it is what I think it is because I don't have the ability to do a blood panel or any of the other things that we used to do back in the day. But I can say with almost clear certainty that this is an advanced form of cancer and it's accelerated and it's moved from her brain to her chest to everything else." Like, he does a full body examination. And Spike asks, "Okay, so how long does my mom have then?" And he says, days, months, maybe if you're lucky, but she's going to die, right?
Yeah.
And so this sends Spike into, a really sad phase. He starts crying.
Of
He's
course. Yeah.
hugging his mother. We get the feeling, thankfully, for at least this part, his mother is in her complete right mind. Like, this is a spell that she's having where she's not sick in the head and understands everything that's going on. Thankfully, otherwise I would have had a really big problem with this scene. uh, because
Yeah.
you can't, in your right mind, in her state, make a decision about your mortality when you're like this. But
Yeah, but the thing is, yeah, I mean, yeah, this is like one of the moments where she's clear, who had a bit of clarity, but I can fully understand the doctor. You know, I mean, he probably already knows she's going to have a very slow and painful death. You know, and he's like, you know what? He's just going to make it painless for her. No, so I understand the doctor. No, it's just,
Yeah.
and then you have like the scene where the mom, sometimes there's a discussion going on between the mom and the doctor, and then the mom, with a few words, pretty much already prepares the boy for what's going to happen. And you see the doctor more or less putting her to sleep because he first gives her one, shoots her one time with an arrow. No, she falls asleep, and then he shoots her another time. So I probably guess he's putting her to sleep,
Yeah.
like, you know,
But-
that they do with sick animals.
yeah, but not before he puts a dart in the kid too, because the kid is obviously going to protest this entire thing.
Yeah.
So he's hugging his mom, and the doctor shoots him with a dart to kind of calm him down, and then takes the mother away, like you said, hits her with one dart, asks her if she's ready, hits her with another dart, and she's dead. We don't see her die on screen, but we know what's happening, right? We also don't see the doctor coming back with her head to boil it. So what we see then is the child wakes up from his daze from being hit with the dart, and the doctor's walking back with his mom's skull, right? And says, hey, here's your mom. Find a very special place in the Christmas tree of skulls
Yeah.
for
For
her
her.
head, right? And so, in true Christmas tree fashion, he makes her skull the star on the top of the tree, right? So he walks over with his mom's skull,
Yeah.
climbs the Christmas tree of skulls, and puts her skull at the very top, right?
Mhm.
And leaves it. And we kind of get a cool montage and kind of a bird's eye view of the entire area when he does this. Really beautifully filmed. And also shot on iPhone. Did you know that, Mike?
What?
It's also shot on iPhone. This entire film is shot on an iPhone.
Okay.
Pretty interesting.
I didn't
And
know
the
that,
reason
yeah.
they did that is because the first film was shot on an iPhone. But yeah, we get a whole view
Yeah.
of the area, all the totem poles and the big Christmas tree. The doctor says, okay, so we need to maybe go ahead and bed down for the night because the night is not safe. The dead come at night. And right about at this time, Samson has woken up, right? Samson is awake
And it's coming after them, yeah.
and coming after him. Like you hear the footsteps in the background that are running and getting closer. The doctor realizes it. Spike realizes it. And they run and hide themselves in kind of a makeshift cubbyhole that the doctor has in the ground where he sleeps when these things show up. Samson's running. He punches the skulls that are in the Christmas tree formation and knocks a couple skulls out of it. Like, this dude is angry. Probably still angry about the fact that they killed the woman that he impregnated, right?
Yeah.
And runs and runs. These guys are now in the hole and they're hiding, and you hear Samson's footsteps running by around them. And for a moment, they think that they're safe because they don't hear the footsteps anymore. And then two giant arms reach into the ground where they are and grab the doctor around the neck, right? And so Samson is choking the shit out of the doctor, but all we see is Samson's arms. We don't see Samson. So he's choking the doctor. The doctor's about to die because this thing's strong as shit. Spike notices that the doctor has darts on his clothing that he uses.
Yeah.
He takes two darts out of the doctor's clothing and sticks both darts in Samson's hands. And then when he does that, Samson's hands just go limp. Like there's just two hanging arms that are sticking in the ground.
Goes back
Yeah.
to sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, it goes back to sleep. So good night, Samson. The doctor is like, thanks, you just saved my life. Yeah. I appreciate you doing that, but it's time for you to move on. Like, you need to go back to the people on the island where you live. And so Spike says, okay, I agree, but goes up and picks up the baby who's still alive. So Samson didn't find the baby, thankfully.
Yeah.
You see kind of this inner struggle. None of this is said, but you see it in the kid's face. He's looking at the baby, and then he looks at the totem pole of skulls and looks back at the baby and thinks. And the next scene that you get is the baby being delivered to the front gate of where he came from, the island, right?
Yeah.
But he delivers the baby with a note, and you hear what he writes in the note. We don't see the note as it's read.
his own
but
words,
you hear
yeah.
what he wrote in it. He basically says, "This baby was found. It was from an infected, but the baby itself is not infected. Please take care of the baby." And he doesn't. I think he writes something in there to his dad, but I don't remember what it was. Do you remember?
Now it was like, Dad, I'm gonna stay out here for a while. You don't have to come looking for me. I'm fine or whatever. And this is the point that bothered me. This is like, okay. I mean, okay, the dad obviously panics and tries to run out, not to get his kid, screaming for his kid, but the flood is now back, and he, of course, can't swim through that, and of course is like crying, of course, because at this point he assumes he's never going to see his son again. Yeah. But this is just like the point where basically just like a Spike is a complete fucking moron. I mean, the entire situation with his mom, with his mom, I can understand. No, he wants to save his mom. That's ready to take the risk. But this is like, okay, he's pretty much done that now.
Yeah.
So now he decides to just go out into a zombie apocalypse, and live out there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but this guy, I mean, it would be one thing if he was somebody that has never seen the outside world and has only heard of it in stories, like a lot of other kids, no? But he's seen what's going on out there. He's seen all of these things, and he knows there is no civilization out there. There's only the few zombies that eventually are going to die within a few decades.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm going to go out and live there and see how it is. Maybe I'll come back someday. I want to go so far into the land where I can't see the beach anymore. Like, I'm sorry, at this point, I can say Spike is stupid. He's just, I mean, how should I say it? I mean, this was the point where I just instantly just did not really like him very much because he's a fucking idiot. I don't care what people tell me, what fans, this guy is an idiot for this decision alone.
Yeah. It also doesn't make sense with the movie too, because I think this kid, his best chance of being able to live, and nobody's mistreated him at this village. I mean, you could argue that maybe his dad has mistreated him a little bit, but that's debatable.
Yeah.
There's no reason why he would not go back to this village to live his life and maybe do what his dad does, go out and scavenge.
Of course.
Well, it makes no sense that he wants to live in the wilderness by himself, on his own, in a place that's completely infected, a place that you cannot get sleep. It's not safe to sleep if you're by yourself. If there are not more than two people, you're in trouble. Because when you sleep, they will come after you. We've already seen that with the low and slow that tried to attack his mom when they were at the monastery. Like, you can't sleep.
Of course.
It makes no sense for him to make this choice. And that is one of my biggest problems with the movie as well.
Exactly, because this community, they're like probably, for all we know, these could be like the last living, actual community or town in England.
Yeah.
Now, the other people are a few, probably tribalistic a little bit, small groups here and there, maybe kind of getting by, but these people, they're like, in the situation of zombie apocalypse, this is like the best situation you can be in all of these people. And
Absolutely.
For him to just... You just said it, and it was spot on. It's just, it makes no sense. The only thing that makes sense is Spike is a complete fucking idiot and has an IQ lower than room temperature. I mean, that's the only way it makes sense.
Yeah, it's pretty stupid. Anyway, next scene we get is a black screen, and then the words 28 days later appear, right? So what we're about to see...
Years later.
No, it's 28 days
28
later.
years?
Yeah, so...
No, it's years later.
Yeah, so after he writes this note and his father tries to run out to see him, but the water's too high, so he can't get there, the screen goes black, and then we say 28 days later is what it says. It doesn't say 28 years.
Okay, good.
So this is 28 days after the events that we just saw where he dropped off the baby, right? And I think they just do that just for effect. But this takes place 28 days later. And Spike he's on the mainland, and he's evading a group of infected. He's kind of sitting next to a stone wall. He's got a fire.
Yeah.
And he realizes off in the distance that he sees zombies, and they're coming for him. So he gets his bow and arrow ready. But he realizes he's probably done because there's a whole shitload of zombies. And so far, this kid has not been able to kill shit, Mike. Nothing. Like, he is the most worthless shot with a bow and arrow so far, right? He's about to die, and then above him, he hears in this really. I had to go back and watch the scene in English. Like you can actually pull it up because we saw the movie in German. I wanted to see what these guys' accents are like. Right, the accent is so ridiculous, cartoonish. British English. These guys look down at him, and what you look up and see is a guy with long blonde hair and a dark beard and chains, like golden jewelry and chains around his neck, and a tracksuit. This scene, like, I get it that they're setting up the next movie. They're setting up the next movie with this.
Probably, yeah.
This came out of fucking left field, dude, and it made no sense.
No sense, and this is the point. We were where you and me both agreed on. This feels like an entirely new movie at this point because it goes from like 28 days later to Zombieland. And literally, this literally is like Zombieland. You have like the in their suits, them running around with tennis rackets, killing the shit out of zombies, having metal music in the background. Yeah. Fully ridiculous. I mean, it's great. It's great.
It's brilliant. I love it, but it comes out of left field and it makes no sense in the context of the movie, right? Because what you get, the only thing that I can compare this to, and the reason I compared it to this other movie is because it is so much like this other movie that it had to be on purpose, and it is on purpose. I found that out by reading the director's comments. But if you remember a movie that came out back in the day called A Clockwork Orange by Stanley Kubrick, famous movie, and also a really good movie for you guys that are watching this. If you haven't seen A Clockwork Orange, go back and watch it because it's an excellent film. Very dark, but an excellent film. These characters, although they're dressed differently than the Droogies in that film, act exactly like the Droogies. So you see this guy up there with his long blonde hair and his beard and all of his chains and his tracksuit, and behind him come 7 other guys that are dressed exactly like him with long blonde hair, beards, chains, and tracksuits. And they've got tennis rackets and baseball bats and all this stupid shit. And they're doing kung fu moves. Like they're jumping down from the top of the fucking wall. Like, you know, and they're slapstick beating the crap out of these zombies, right? It is the most ridiculous thing. And it reminds you exactly of A Clockwork Orange, right? And that's on purpose. So these guys, in every bit of ridiculousness that you could muster, kill these zombies in a really slapstick way, and then they like have this thing that they chant back to each other, like back and forth, that sounds utterly ridiculous in British. It's like, "Cheerio, good job, blah blah blah," and it's insane. And so the guy that's up top with the long blonde hair, then after they kill the zombies, is like, "Hey, buddy, my name's Jimmy. And these are my," whatever the fuck he calls them. He has a name for them, but they all look exactly like him. And he's like, "Looks like you could need some help. Do you want to come with us?" And the kid doesn't say yes, but he's kind of like, okay. But what you get from this is that this guy up top who says his name Jimmy, is the kid from the beginning of the movie who his father was a priest, and his father gave him the crucifix, and his father died and he was left. That's Jimmy. And what Jimmy has done is he's created an apocalyptic crew of people who go around slapstick killing zombies. And that's Jimmy. And I don't know if you caught this, but the cross that's around his neck that his father gave him, it is the original rosary beads, but now it's upside down, right? And so what I think is that because his father was a priest and he watched his father die and he says, "My God has forsaken me." So now he thinks, and this is just my theory, Mike, and we're going to have to see if I'm right with the next movie. I think that he believes he is the Antichrist. There's a few things that point to this, right, throughout the movie. And like, I had a list, but I don't have it now. But if you go back and read the words on the walls that you see sometimes, and you see the scripture that his name is inserted into, that scripture that you saw on the wall is an apocalyptic thing, a speech that's out of the Bible in the chapter about Armageddon. And his name is inserted in the exact spot where the Antichrist name would be inserted in the original. So now Jimmy believes he is the Antichrist, and he's gathering people in a cult-like group that think that they are going to bring about the end of the world against Christ or against God or whatever. That's my theory. I think there's a lot of things that point to that in the film, and I think that that's what we're going to find out in the next movie. Dude, I am super fucking hyped for the next movie. Super.
I mean, is it confirmed that another one is going to come?
Yes.
Or?
It's called The Bone Temple. and it comes out in 2026.
The Bone Temple.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, the other
So-
interesting thing about
mhm.
this, Mike, is that they've already announced the main character. Who do you think the main character is?
Please not Jimmy. He's going to be the antagonist.
Well,
right?
yeah, he's going to be
Is it
the
going to be
antagonist.
Kick-Ass? Is it going to be Kick-Ass?
No, Cillian Murphy.
You're kidding me.
No, yeah, the original.
He's still alive.
He's still alive.
Huh?
The original character from the
Yeah.
first movie, the main guy, is going to be the main character in the next movie. So his
Okay,
character
that's
survived this entire time, and now we're going to get to see him 28 years later probably fight back against these assholes, right? So I'm
Probably,
all
yeah,
for it,
yeah.
dude. Like, I'm a huge Cillian Murphy fan. I was always hoping they were going to bring
Yeah.
him back into this series because, quite honestly, he's what made the first movie good. His acting.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
he's great.
Yeah.
Cillian Murphy's wonderful. If you
Great actor.
anything he's been in, he's done well. Like and he specifically likes horror movies. He says it himself. Like, yes, he is he's in Peaky Blinders. He's the main character of that series, which that series is amazing. But he's also in what is it? A Quiet Place Part 2, and
Yeah.
he's the main character in A Quiet Place Part 2. He does a great job in that film. I can't wait to see him in the next one. So, Mike, when that one comes out in 2026, we have to go see that
We're
thing on
watching it.
opening day
Yeah.
in the theater and
Yep.
come back and do a fucking episode about that. Because I'm hyped.
Mhm.
I hope that they take it in this slapstick, silly direction that they started with at the end of this film. Right?
That would be cool, yeah.
At least I hope so. But yeah, and so what the director said was that he's been greenlit for this movie, but if he gets another film after this one greenlit, he's going to do 3. So this is going to be the first in a new trilogy, is what this is.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I hope it happens, dude. But I'm pretty
So-
sure it will because this movie has done
So-
it extremely well.
Yeah, it did. So far, I have heard nothing only positive about it. The thing is, of course, the title, The Bone Temple. Is it going to? That's probably a working title. It's probably not the final title of the movie, right?
No,
I guess.
the advertisements
I
are
have-
out. Like if you haven't found it, if you go on Google and look, it's titled 28 Years Later, Bone Temple. That's the actual title.
okay,
And
okay.
there's actually
That's the subtitle. So basically, the entire trilogy is now going to be called 28 Years Later.
28
It's
Years
gonna have a
Later.
subtitle.
Yeah,
Yes.
28
yes.
Years Later.
That
Bone
was the thing that actually kind of interested me, is how if they were going to make a new movie, how they were going to title it. Nah, because you have like 20. Were they going to make it like 28? Were they going to go back to 28 days later? You know, like the next movie be 28 days after this one, or are they going to call it 28 hours later, 28 months later? I don't know. 28 decades later.
There's really nowhere to go with that to where it would make sense. So they have to keep it 28 years later. They have to. I mean, otherwise it's just going to sound ridiculous.
Mhm.
But I'm down, dude. I'm excited.
Yeah, of course.
but
It's really cool that they're bringing Cillian Murphy back, because that was the entire fan theory that people were theorizing, that Cillian Murphy is going to be in the movie.
Yeah.
Now, because you saw that one picture of the one zombie,
yeah.
that zombie is on her thumbnail, and a lot of people assumed that was Cillian Murphy's character. But I already knew that there
included.
Yeah.
I thought it was supposed to be
no,
him.
because I mean, how should I say it? I never really looked much into it. The only thing I know is that there was specifically a statement, I think, from Cillian Murphy and the directors that's not him. That is not Cillian Murphy's character. I remember that, reading an article about it. It was an interview. I'm not sure if it was with Cillian Murphy or the director, but they specifically stated that zombie is not Cillian Murphy's character.
Yeah. Even though they definitely made it look exactly like him. I'm not sure why they did that.
Probably obviously that was intentionally.
That I think
They
was
intentionally did
specifically
that
done
because they
just
knew
to
fans
hype the movie and get people to go see it.
Exactly, because they I guarantee you they knew that fans would be talking about that. No? And I guarantee you the director, he said he's planned a trilogy.
Yeah.
No? So he's probably had these ideas up front. And if it would be greenlit, I probably guarantee you he already had Cillian Murphy in mind to play the main character.
Yeah, I'm sure he did.
Cillian Murphy probably has already agreed to this, like, I don't know, like 2 or 3 years ago.
Well, he did, but
I
he
guess.
also co-produced this film.
Yes, that too.
Cillian
right,
Murphy
exactly,
co-produced
that too.
this movie.
No? He co-produced it, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so I guarantee you they
Which
did
is
that on
great.
purpose.
I
That
think-
was clearly the marketing strategy for this and for the next movie. Because now it's like, I'm not sure when they posted that out, but it's only been like a few days, maximum 1 or 2 weeks.
A day ago. I found this out yesterday as we were about to film this episode. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, now a few days after, I mean, the movie's in theaters, they announced Cillian Murphy as the next main character. That's not a coincidence.
It's brilliant. Dude.
It's
fucking brilliant. No, it's not. What I'll do is I'll actually put up like the image for the next movie is already out, like the poster. So I'll put that in here so everybody can see what it looks like, and here it is right here. So
yeah,
okay,
it's cool. Cool.
It's cool. Yeah, it's cool. I'm super fucking excited for it, and the fact that it comes out in 2026, so it comes out literally next year. Like we're not gonna have to wait a long time, and I'm really fucking thankful they did this because this movie to me was one of my favorites from the early 2000s, and I'm really happy with where it's gone. Like they're taking it in a direction that's fun and interesting, and the story is evolving. It's not the same thing rehashed over and over. And if you can do anything to kind of, I don't know, make us forget that the second movie ever happened because it was fucking dreadful, this will make that up. This will make it up to me. This will make up.
I mean, me too. I think eventually we're going to do 28 weeks later, and I can tell you now that's a movie we're probably going to be shitting on the whole time because it's really bad.
Dude, I'm going to destroy.
It's just how.
I'm going to destroy it.
And that's the kind of thing with zombie movies, you know. The outbreak is essential, in my opinion, to it. Now, and if that's bad, it kind of it ruins the entire movie because it just makes, you know. And that's always kind of the thing that always kind of ruined The Walking Dead for me. Even though I liked the first 5 seasons, I stopped watching it when Negan came around. But it was also kind of like, I do not see this zombie outbreak happening, specifically if they're that insanely slow. It's like, it's specifically in Fear the Walking Dead, they kind of wanted to show how it all started. It's just, I'm sorry, but I do not see this zombie outbreak happening. Yeah. Because it's like, the thing, 28 days later, that's full on chaos. That can happen extremely fucking fast. No? But this is like, even if this would come to a level where it becomes a threat, the military will eventually come, okay, you know what, shoot them in the head, they go down. And I guarantee you could simply just sit down if you have, even if this was thousands of zombies, what you can do is just take 2 or 3 people in a few or 4 days, go boop, 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 and then they'd be gone. Yeah. You know, like...
Well, I mean, I think that's the argument with The Walking Dead, though. Like, people that have watched that and followed it and kind of dissected it said that it's not necessarily the fact that the zombies are slow that doesn't make it work. Because, honestly, at that time, ammunition is not being produced, so you're kind of low on ammunition, so taking them out is not really a thing. What doesn't make it work is that the idea of the zombies being so slow ruined the series because you ran out of things to do. And then it turned into a drama with occasional zombies every once in a while because they realized that wasn't going to work.
But that was the issue with season 6. Now, I still think this. It's not. I don't really have a problem with this zombie thing, but having like a full-out zombie apocalypse, full apocalyptic event, they should have written it better to how this actually started.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what I think because these slow zombies. It's like, I mean, with these zombies, just close your doors and they're not going to get in your house. That's pretty much how it works.
That's it. These things in this movie will tear your house apart getting in. And that's what makes it work so well.
Exactly.
And
that makes sense.
Being the fucking horror nerd that I am and loving zombies the way that I love zombies, this for me, and you could probably argue, but this for me is probably the best take on zombies that I've seen in a film. Just because, for me, the virus works, how it spread works, and the zombies are fucking terrifying because there's no escape.
Yeah.
There is no escape. The only thing you can do is hide. Because these things will tear you to pieces.
Well, then specifically, a show you should watch on Netflix is All of Us Are Dead. I've told you multiple times, Matt. Huh?
Yeah. I haven't gotten around to watching it, but I will.
Yeah, because that in my opinion, All of Us Are Dead on Netflix. I mean, a second season is coming out now. I guess I think. But that is like the best zombie series I have ever seen.
Yeah.
Because that is like you have like the fast 28 days later zombies, but they're undead. They're clearly undead. No? And that's like that story wise, in my opinion, is the best zombie show I have seen so far.
Okay. Well, I haven't watched it, but I'll watch it. We may actually have to do like a podcast episode on it too, because if it's that good, I'd hate to miss doing that. I mean, we can do series as well. So why the fuck not?
Of course, yeah.
But anyway, Mike, we're like we're at 2 hours and some change. So
yeah, pretty over it.
Yeah. But you got anything else you want to say about this film?
No, not it. Just that it's a great movie. It's really a very good zombie movie, and I was really positively surprised because I thought it was going to suck.
Yep.
Specifically because 28 Later sucked. But really, I should say it. I really like it. There's only like the one thing that makes Spike a complete fucking idiot at the end. That kind of ruins it for me. That's like the only thing. For that reason, I would give it an 8 out of 10.
Absolutely. 8 out of 10. Easy. I think the ending for me was probably my favorite part because I love it when they throw a wrench in the works of a movie. Like you expect a certain tone, and then when they do something like what they did at the end of this movie, it really makes you hungry for more. Like it makes me hyped for the next film. And so many fucking movies get that wrong. The ending is a dead ending or it sucks. Most people complain about the endings in horror movies all the time. This is not a bad ending. This is a great fucking wrap up to this film, and it makes you want to see the next one. So 8 out of 10, easy. But enjoy this episode. We probably just spoiled the shit out of it for you. That doesn't mean that you can't go see the movie. You'll probably love it even more after listening to us talk about it. Yeah. But probably. So stay tuned. Your next episode that hits after this one is It Part 2. It turned out to be a pretty good episode. That'll post after this one. That'll be episode 22. And then after that, we are doing the superhero movie, right?
Yeah, but we're not saying which one.
We already did. We didn't in this one, but
we did.
We did, but we said it in It Part 2. So that episode comes out after
right. Yeah, but it's not coming out
around
now,
for It Part 2, and you'll figure out what the next movie we're doing is.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So until next time, guys, I'm Matt.
I'm Mike.
And we'll see you guys next time.
The blackest eyes, the darkest eyes.